Welcome to the Transform with Vance podcast, where transformations begin every day, and I am your host, Vance Hines. So let's get started. All right, this is Vance Hines, and I'm here with another wonderful success DDPY Success Story, Mike Turnpenny. How are you, Mike?
Very good. I'm doing very well, man. Really well. Great to be here. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm kind of excited to pick your brain. I've always wondered about your story, so I'm kind of excited about it. So
yeah,
tell
nice to share, man. Nice to share.
So tell the one or two people that may ever look at this. Tell them why you are a DDP yoga success story.
It's a really simple but a great question, man. Like I was thinking about it like prior to today, and I guess success is such a broad word. People have different success, different ways. I think for me, the reason I'm a success story is because I've done DDP yoga every day since April 2018. Now, sometimes that is just a 10-minute stretch, but generally speaking, I'm talking a minimum 25 minutes every day. And I think the reason it's been a success for me, rather than a physical transformation, it's been a complete overhaul on the mindset that I have, and connecting to something powerful enough to teach you discipline for me was the biggest success. So now doing DDP yoga isn't like I have to make time for it. It's like cleaning my teeth. I wake up in the morning and it's part of my routine. No one thinks like, oh man, don't want to clean my teeth today. You know, and for me, DDP yoga is exactly the same. It's something that I wake up and it's just like autopilot. There's no thinking like, oh man, today now I don't want to, or today I'm going to take it easy, or today I'm going to DDP yoga, some kind of traditional yoga, some kind of stretching, but generally everything I do always stems back to DDP yoga. I've been doing it so long now, you know, the curiosity starts to sink in for other types of exercise, other types of yoga, but at the core of everything I do is DDP yoga. And I believe for that reason, if there was a way to have like a before and after picture of my mind, people would go like, wow, like that is like a big transformation. But unfortunately, we can't really do that. Unless there's a podcast with me 5 years ago and one today, it's really hard to explain to people sometimes. You know, a physical transformation can be visibly shocking. You know, you're a great example of that. Like the man you used to be is not the man you are today to look at. And for me, I feel like you, but in a mind. In my mind was Vance from all those years ago, and I sit here today as the Vance Hines that is now doing a podcast about transformation.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Now, you know, I'm usually pretty good at figuring people's accents, you know, and so where they're from. So I'm guessing from your accent that you're from Alabama.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Alabama. Yeah, absolutely. Alabama via Brighton, United Kingdom. Yeah, via England.
Yeah.
The south coast of England, Alabama.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so you were born in England, but that's not where you're living now. Where are you living?
No. So I was born in Brighton, England, and I spent the first 26 years of my life there. And, you know, speaking of my mindset, the reason so now I'm currently in Costa Rica, coincidentally, which is where I came 7 years ago. But I'm currently based in Bogota in Colombia. But I'm currently in Costa Rica, which is where I came 7 years ago, pre-DDP yoga. I left everything I knew back in the UK to fix my mind. That was the start of my mental transformation, was coming to that realization that the life I was living and the lifestyle I was living, you know, I wasn't doing anything bad illegal, but what I mean is like just waking up every day thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I living this way? You know, and I didn't want to be that person that said, you know, one day I'm going to do this. You know, in a couple of years, I will go there. I will do this. And I just made the decision, like, worst case scenario, I leave England and go to Costa Rica. At the time, the reason was to learn Spanish. But I thought, well, worst case scenario, I just return back to England. Like, I've always got that safety blanket, which I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful to be in that position where, you know, I've always got mum's house to go back to if I need to. So that's how my journey started. In 2015, I went to Costa Rica, and over the years, you know, I came back to the UK and back to Costa Rica, but now based in Colombia. But as we speak, coincidentally, I am vacationing in Costa Rica.
Oh man, so how old are you?
I am 33, a month away from 34.
All right. And so how old were you when you moved to Costa Rica?
It was a few weeks before my 27th birthday. So growing up, I was a huge fan of like 90s grunge music, and maybe you're familiar or maybe you're not with the 27 Club. It's that really sad story of lots of famous artists and musicians who passed away at the age of 27. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to be 27 soon, and I don't want to be like miserable listening to Nirvana in England. You know, like all of these like sad stories you hear about. And that was like a silent motivator for me. Like, not that I was thinking anything bad was going to happen to me, but it was more like, I want a good 27th year. I want the best year of my life to be born out of like, you know, this kind of plateau I was living in. So yeah, I was 27 when I left. Just before.
What made you choose Costa Rica out of everywhere in the world?
So at the time, wanting to learn Spanish, most people assumed I would go to Spain because it's like a 40 € flight over the ocean. But due to my circumstances at the time, I wanted to feel geographically far away from everything I knew, and you know, the problems I had. I wanted to get away from them. And you know, I'm not a believer in running away. I think there's a difference between running away and getting away. If you run away, your problems will catch you. But if you go away with the idea of fixing those problems, they won't come, because you're going to resolve them before they can catch up with you. So I decided to get myself geographically far enough away to give myself the space I need to resolve these kind of issues I've been living with. So that's not why I chose Costa Rica specifically. It was complete accident. I was looking for Spanish language schools abroad, which is like one of the broadest Google searches you can do, you know. And for whatever reason, this school in Costa Rica was a regular kind of search result I was having. And as I mentioned previously, I didn't want to be that guy that said, one day I'll do this, one day I'll do this. So I just decided, instead of continue to mull it over and think about it, I just booked it and thought, like I said, worst case scenario, it's not what I want it to be or what I think it's going to be. And I come back and I regroup and I make a new plan. But as luck or fate would have it, it was exactly where I was supposed to be.
And what school was that? What school did you choose to come to?
The school is called the School of the World. It's in a town called Jaco. Now, the School of the World, they offer surfing, Spanish, photography, and yoga, coincidentally. And the majority of people go there to do surfing and yoga. It turns out not many people go on vacation to learn Spanish. I was like the nerd, you know, at the school. And the truth is, like, I did so little research in it. I didn't even know there was a surfing culture in Costa Rica. I just wanted to learn Spanish and get away from, you know, the UK. And when I arrived in Costa Rica, when I went to the school, you know, it wasn't like a school like you'd imagine. It was just this like open house, Spanish lessons kind of in like an open air classroom, people from all over the world. And the beauty of it was everyone comes for the same purpose, but for a different reason. We're all trying to find something, whether it's the cliche of finding yourself, whether it's just experiencing a new experience. People that came to that school, you connected because you understood, like, hey, you're trying to do something with your life. It doesn't matter if they're a rich doctor who's taking a surfing vacation, or if you're, an English backpacker like myself. You would just connect, and it's a really beautiful place, and it's still there today. And I really recommend, if people, especially in the States, man, Costa Rica is so close. Just fly in and have a good learning vacation.
How much and how long is the program, and how much does it cost?
As for the pricing, I'm not sure now because it's been a few years since I did it, but you can choose whatever works for you. So some people literally come for 1 week and just surf. In my case, I came for 9 weeks in total in the school and just did Spanish, but they will cater it. So generally speaking, people do like a surfing and yoga package because they kind of go hand in hand. Break the body surfing, fix it doing yoga. Or there are people that want to do surfing in Spanish so they can communicate better with the instructors. However, the instructors all speak English. But as for the pricing, I think if I remember correctly, the longer you stay for, the lower the price. If you come for 1 week, it can be quite an expensive vacation. But if you can commit to a 4-week program, a 10-week program, you'll have a far more economical vacation.
Oh, man. Well, that's cool. All right, now you hinted about it and you've talked about it, but you haven't given any specifics. What were the circumstances that you were trying to put some geographic space between?
Good. So in end of 2013, early 2014, I started to have problems with food. Like anorexia, but it wasn't anorexia at the beginning. I just thought it was trying to be healthier. It's the thing people don't realize about eating disorders, especially anorexia. It's not a conscious decision to lose some weight. I remember my doctor said to me, weight loss is a side effect of the illness of anorexia. Anorexia is a mental health condition, and the side effect is not eating. Lots of people, they assume it's a cheat way of losing weight, which really isn't the case. And I believe that the reason I suffered with anorexia, I suffered specifically with what's called atypical anorexia. Now, atypical anorexia is where you don't follow the kind of guidelines of what a typical anorexia case would be like. So, and also physically, often when you see like a picture of somebody who had anorexia or has anorexia, they are like the typical skin and bone kind of picture. And I think sadly, this is because, without sounding too cynical, that's what gets more attention. That's what will sell a magazine or a news article if there's like a shocking image. In my case, when I began being anorexic, it was very common. People would see me and say, "Hey, Mike, like you look great. You look really like you've like leaned out and you got healthier." Little did they know what was happening in my mind. And I think the reason that I, after many years now, like removed from it, the conclusion I've come to is a reason lots of people the reason people end up suffering with mental health conditions, or in my case anorexia, it's where you feel you're lacking control in other areas of your life. So in my case, I was living like the kind of regular lifestyle, the 9-to-5 job, the salary, renting an apartment, kind of living for the weekend. And it wasn't who I was, and it's not who I am today. And I think I was trying to find control in another area of my life. And something we can control is food. Now, whether that's eating too much or whether it's eating nothing, you can make that decision to say, I'm in control of what I put in my body, whether it's putting it in or not putting it in. And in my case, I didn't put it in. And I guess to give people an idea, if they're not too familiar with like anorexia, it's kind of like a drug to begin with. If anybody's ever got really drunk or taken any drugs, which I don't recommend, you get that high feeling of control, that adrenaline, and you really feel like you're in control of your behavior. But the longer it goes on, you realize you are totally out of control. And the way the doctors have explained it to me is it's almost like a possession. Like the illness makes you feel like you're in control, so it can continue to control you, like a manipulation, like an aggressive relationship, like a manipulative relationship. And this is all going on inside your mind, which is, like I said at the beginning, if I could compare my mind from then and my mind now, it's unrecognizable. And this continued for a year and a half, progressively getting worse and worse and worse, and to the point where I realized I'm not in control. And it's very hard to break up with a mental illness. You know, they don't want to leave you. They've got a lot of control. They've got spare keys to your head. So after, and I quote my doctor, crisis point, which is where I was in hospital. I was hospitalized because the anorexia eventually caused depression, it caused anxiety, it caused insomnia. And it's one thing not sleeping, but it's another thing when you can't sleep and all you've got are these like aggressive thoughts in your mind that it's your voice, but it's not your thoughts. It's a mental illness giving you these ideas. And after eventually seeking help, professional help, I was able to connect with other people that suffered with various forms of eating disorders. Now, whether it was anorexia like me, whether it was bulimia, whether it was overeating, whether it was like laxative pills. And all of a sudden, you realize that you're not on your own. And it's a real cliche, you know, you're not alone, but it's true. Like, you really feel like you're on your own for a very long time. And you feel like you're the first person to suffer with this condition, whatever the condition is you have. And the moment you sit down with someone and you share, even if they can't relate to exactly what you say, they will have lived a comparable experience. So I feel now I can connect with someone that's maybe a recovering drug addict or alcoholic, because I've not lived life through their shoes, but I've lived a life where I wasn't in control of my actions. And when I sat with these people and you can share these things and relate to people, that is really powerful. And I think for any type of problem people have in life, sometimes the answer is not being understood, it's just being heard. You know, like the moment you start to speak and people give you the respect to listen with no judgment, all of a sudden that weight on your shoulder is halved, because wow, like they might not understand what I'm going through, but they're going to give me the time to listen. And that's really, really powerful. So whether you're going through something, I recommend speaking to someone, or whether you know someone going through something, don't try and overanalyze their situation. Don't try and pretend you understand. Just listen. Just, you know, give them your time. You're like devote time to them. Not time where you're half on Instagram and half listening, you know, like give them your time. And, you know, literally, like that saved my life. People giving me their time, that completely saved my life and set me up to feel healthy enough to go to Costa Rica, and 7 years later be here now sharing, you know, my experiences.
So how old were you when you started having these anorexic issues?
The behaviors, the issues. So 2014, I was 25, 26 at the time. I was both ages. It was that year and a half, 25, 26 years old, which kind of came quite late. You know, lots of people, they suffer with it earlier in life. You know, I've always liked to be groundbreaking, I guess. So, you know, I took to it a bit later. And it kind of came out of nowhere, really. It really came out of nowhere.
Was it an image concern? Like, you know, you didn't like the way you looked, or you thought you were overweight, or what what started, what started it, and I got a follow up question to that too, but.
Yeah, great question. I think it was never about losing weight. And I'm going to say something that's going to kind of contradict that. I liked seeing the scale go down, but that wasn't because I wanted to lose weight. The scale going down was like a measure of success, of how good I was at being anorexic. Now, in this state of mind I have now, sounds like a crazy person talking. But at the time, it's like, oh, great. Like, I'm doing anorexia really well. Like I was like...
Yeah.
No, I really believed I was like, I'm the best anorexic there is, like you, and I guess you're trying to sugarcoat the problem. You're trying to make it seem like it's not a problem. So by making it seem like it's a challenge, and okay, I only lost 2 pounds this week, I was only eating, I think, about 500 calories maximum per day in those days, at the very, very most. I can remember going to a supermarket and not buying a bag of apples because I thought 26 calories per apple, that's quite a lot. That's the kind of level I reached where eating a 26 calorie apple just seemed like the equivalent now of like eating a pizza. So that's... and as I mentioned previously, it was a control. I think it stemmed from control. And to measure how in control I was, the scale was a good barometer. Like, the scale's gone down, I'm in control of what I'm doing. And later on, I would definitely say, and I have no shame in saying now, I still feel like I suffer from some kind of body dysmorphia. I still feel like, maybe I could be leaner, maybe I could have a slimmer body. The difference is now, through the various disciplines I've learned, DDPY being one of them, I'm able to realize, like, I'm talking nonsense to myself and I can snap out of it within a split second. But 7 years ago, that was like, that was holding me on a leash. That was walking me. Those ideas, your body could be better. Maybe you shouldn't, have that couscous for dinner. Okay, great. Or maybe I would decide, okay, I went 24 hours with no food. Tomorrow I'll challenge myself to go 36 hours. And it became a game. You're playing with fire, you're going to get burnt, as they say.
And the reason I asked is because, I know you've followed my journey over the years, and I've been down as low as 219 twice. I'm over 300 now, probably 310 now, but I see pictures when I was in my 220s, and I'm like, I'd kill to be back down to where I was at 320. But then when I was at 220, yeah. I still felt I was fat, and I still, when I looked at myself at that time, I still saw myself as fat. So I was wondering, if that's kind of the part of your issue too,
Yeah, I think I was an overweight child. I can tell you in pounds because we use stones in England. Yeah. When I was 17 years old, let me do the conversion. I was 17 stone. So and what did you use? Pounds, not kilos, right? So when I was 17 years old, I was 233 pounds. And that was just due to not caring, and that story for another time. I didn't have the best time in school. I was bullied in school, and you find happiness in, Famous Moe's or Domino's pizza. You find happiness in fast junk food, high salt, high sugar, those flavors that kind of trick your brain that they're a good flavor. But when you change your diet years later, you realize how they didn't taste that great. And I think because I grew up as an overweight child, my whole childhood up until 17, I was an overweight child. So I think in my mind, I am still that fat child. Even though it's, 17 years later, I guess, more or less. I still relate to being that person. And I think that helped the body dysmorphia, or it encouraged it. And I guess, in your case as well, when you start at such a high weight, the road is a lot longer, right? So, we've seen people on the DDP Yoga Facebook page who start at 220 and they want to lose 50 pounds. So I guess for you to achieve such an amazing loss, but then you see somebody else saying like, oh, I weigh 220 and I'm not happy. It's like, oh shit, should I not be happy either? Like, I'm 220 and I'm over the moon to be at 220, but other people are saying they want to be 170. Do I have to get, I think understanding your story, that's what I had to realize. I wasn't like other anorexics. I wasn't like other people with other eating disorders or other addictions or, negative habits. Once I realized this is my journey, this is who I am, we have to find what works for us. I could sit here today and I could map out, eat like this, exercise like this, meditate like this, think like this. It might work for 50% of people that listen, but another 50% just won't take to that lifestyle. You have to find your path. And that, I think, is a big challenge. And especially when you reach a certain level of, talking about weight loss, if you reach a certain weight, but you're kind of noticing other people's stories and you're comparing them, I guess you're never going to be happy. You have to be happy in here and respect what's happening out there, but this is your story, this is your life, this is your experience. I think that's a really, really key factor for me, and just being happy with who I am and being proud of the decisions that I make and not expecting others to make the same and not expecting others to tell me to make different decisions.
What did you do for a living back in England? Up until you moved. What did you do in school, and what did you do for a living, and that kind of thing?
So so I went to a music college after high school. So I studied songwriting for 3 years. So in a previous life, I was in a rock band, and that's what I did. And I think like retrospect is a beautiful thing. Like lots of people would say oh, I wish I didn't study that because that doesn't lead to a career, which is, often is very much the case, but I don't regret it. I had a great time, but I think part of the problem was I then didn't have a qualification to become to become a doctor, an accountant, or whatever. So for a long time I was doing I guess admin would be the best way of describing it. I worked in a hotel as a receptionist. I became the reception manager, which is around where my problems began, because working in hospitality, the hours you work are not very friendly. You finish at 11 p.m. and you're back at 6:30 in the morning. You're not sleeping. Your food patterns are all over the place as well. From there, I went into property management, and that was really where my problems became really, really bad. Now, I'm not blaming property management, but that's where I realized I am not capable of holding down a full-time job. At the time, my mental health became my full-time job. Trying to manage that and work a corporate lifestyle, it's possible for a period of time, but you burn out, and that's what happened to me. And I was very, very fortunate where the company I worked for were so supportive. They actually gave me a raise whilst I was off sick. My doctor signed me off sick for 2 weeks, and the director phoned me and said, I'm going to give you a raise, and I was like, the hell, most people would fire me, but he gave me a raise, and it gave me the support network I needed, because in my situation, some people are different. I found it hard to speak to my close friends and family because they're emotionally invested in you as a person, and they get very hurt seeing you in a bad way. If you're telling your mum that you're depressed and you've considered suicide and you don't want to eat food, they can't be a neutral party because they are very, very emotionally connected. I was very fortunate. The people I worked with, and especially the director in this case, they very much gave me the space I needed. They allowed me to go to a support group every Wednesday. I could leave work early, no questions asked, go to a support group, get yourself healthy. And the director of that company, I believe he really influenced who I am today, because I try and give back now to people that are where I was 7 years ago. And that director said to me, he took me for a beer and he said, I've suffered with my demons. And he said, it doesn't matter what kind of demon you've got, demons are demons. And I can understand that you're not choosing to be in this war with a demon. And if you need space, you take space. If you need a day off, you take a day off. And so again, you know, like reaching out to people, like give people the time. Don't be judgmental. Don't, if you work for if you're a big wig at a company and you've got somebody that's sick, you know, putting pressure on them will not help. That won't make them do a better job, and it won't make them get better quicker. Giving them respect as a human being gives them that belief. Okay, people believe in me. People care about me, even if they can't relate to the exact circumstances that I'm living. And from there, I was signed off sick from work for 6 months. My doctor said, you know, basically you've got to focus on your health. And I spent my days studying Spanish in my mum's house, as well as going to, I saw a psychiatrist and I saw an anorexic or an eating disorder specialist, as well as going to like an NHS, the UK like health system funded support group. And everything played a part. The psychiatrist spoke to me like a human, not like a doctor. The way he spoke was very, very normal. My specialist at the time, man, I hated her. The way she would sit there in silence, waiting for me to say something. And I was like, what am I paying you for? Like, you're meant to be talking. You're meant to be fixing me. But like now, like I realize that silence, which is something I've since learned about through like the life coaching education I've done. Like the silence is to let you find what you're looking for in your mind, to let you find the words. If a doctor talks all the time, they're not giving you space to process your information and articulate it. And she would sit there for minutes at a time just waiting for me or like the mental health part of my brain to say something. And now like I really feel like her silence pulled that demon out of me, along with my psychiatrist, who was awesome, and the support network I had. You know, all of those different ingredients, you know, without exaggerating, definitely saved my life.
Now, you talked about, I don't know if this is a proper question, but earlier you'd said that you controlling the food because of the lack of control in the rest of your life. Were there other things that you'd had no control over that, you know, that we hadn't discussed already?
I think, no, it's a great question. Definitely a question. I think it's more the culture we live in. We sometimes feel obligated to follow the cultural norms. So in my case, get a full-time job, pay rent, go out on a weekend and repeat. And I felt like I had no control to make my life happier and to live the life that I felt I should be living. And, you know, the life I live now is not an orthodox, conventional life. I'm an independent worker. I don't work for a company. I can work here in Costa Rica. I can work in Colombia. I can go back to the UK. And at the time, I didn't know how I could make that a reality. And I didn't feel like I had any control over making or improving my life or my situation. And, you know, when you're in that kind of circle, it's kind of like, it's like a bubble you live in. And until you burst that bubble or find a way out of the bubble, you're just going to follow that pattern that everybody does. Now, I'm not saying that pattern is wrong. Like I've always said, I'm quite envious of people that want to work a 9 to 5, go to the bar on the weekend, and they enjoy that life. Because for me, that's the life I had, but it wasn't working. And if you've got that life and you like it, all the power to you, and, you know, enjoy it. But in my case, it was like, well, this isn't what I want. 2 questions. What do I want? And how do I do it? And when you haven't got the answer to the first question, what do I want? That's where the lack of control really kind of becomes more apparent, because you're like, okay, well, I don't want this, but I don't know what I want. And you feel powerless. You feel powerless over your own destiny. And, you know, my brother lives in Japan. He moved to Japan 14 or 15 years ago. And around this time when I was becoming ill, I went to visit my brother in Tokyo, and I saw him speaking Japanese. And I thought, if my brother can learn Japanese, I could at least try and learn Spanish. You know, like, if he can learn this kind of completely alien language that is completely different to our native language, I can at least learn another Latin language. And that was the seed that was planted. As fate would have it, my new roommates that moved into my flat, my apartment, were from Spain. And then a few months later, I would meet a Colombian girl. And I'm like, okay, the world is pushing me here towards Spanish. And I just followed it. Sometimes you have to not ask questions and follow the way that the world is pushing you. And, you know, you'll be surprised where the world can take you. If we try and like draw out the route we want to take, we're going to be disappointed. We have to leave room for flexibility. We have to leave room for a traffic jam in life. You know, you can't take the same route to work every day, because it won't be the same every day. And life is the same. You know, if you plot your route, you know, dot by dot, that won't be the best idea. You know, you've got to have like an A and a Z, start and an end point. But how you get there is going to change all the time. And I came to Costa Rica. I ended up in Colombia. That was not part of the plan. But I'm very glad it was part of the plan that the world gave me. So yeah, always being open to possibility and flexible to where the world pushes you, or if you're a religious person, where God takes you, or whatever. Just follow the plan that you're given.
What was, you said you were hospitalized? What was the point where you became hospitalized, and did you do that voluntarily or was that involuntarily?
The truth, and I'm not sitting on the fence here, is all these years later, I still can't give you a definitive answer on that one. Like, what I was suffering from insomnia, so the anorexia, the depression, the anxiety led to just not sleeping. Mm-hmm. I remember taking I forget the name of the sleeping pill, but there was a pill that was prescribed to me by a doctor. And they said, if you're not sleeping, take this and you will be asleep in 5 minutes and you have the best night's sleep. They said it's not ideal to be taking it, but if you've not slept properly for a month, you know, take this, have a good sleep. And I remember that night, I took that sleeping pill. I did not fall asleep. And I took one more and I did not fall asleep. And it almost felt like the illness in me had complete control. Even these like medications, these powerful medications that would knock out your average horse, you know, they were not putting me to sleep. And that led me, you know, unfortunately to overdosing on sleeping pills and alcohol. Now, I maintain to this day it was not a suicide attempt, but I was willing to die if it meant sleeping. Now, that's a horrible thing to say, and like years removed, I'm not that person anymore. But at the time, I remember thinking, I need to sleep, and I would do whatever it takes to not be awake for the next few hours. And I took that risk. I took the risk of potentially never waking up again. You know, luckily I did. You know, very, very sadly, my mum and my granddad found me in bed, you know, just like dead to the world, called the paramedics, and they didn't have to do anything to bring me back. It was very much like shout in my face for long enough and I would kind of come back too. But that was a situation that really demonstrated how far down this dark road I was going with these illnesses, and how if I didn't do something drastic, you know, next time maybe I wouldn't wake up. And that's why I ended up in hospital. And I think it was a very, very clear message to myself and those around me that, you know, these mental health conditions are they're real. And I think unfortunately now sometimes people use mental health as an excuse, and let me elaborate on that. What I mean is the word depression has been manipulated. Someone, when they don't feel like going to work, I've worked with people like this in the past, they'll tell a doctor they're depressed to get a note off work, and they come back the next week and they're right as rain. So sometimes now when you tell someone you're depressed, they think, oh, you're just sad, get some sunshine, do some exercise, get that dopamine, and you'll feel good. There's depression and there's, feeling, bad. Depression is absorbing. Depression, it's like having water on your shoulders pushing you down. That, what happened to me, demonstrated to people, Mike is depressed and needs help. He's not depressed and needs to take a vacation. That's, so it was like the best and worst thing to happen to me, like I'm a big believer in making a positive out of a negative. I have no regrets in life. If you learn from something, then it needed to happen. And in my case, I'm very grateful to be sat here today to say, from that overdose, I learned a very valuable lesson. You have to get help. You are not happy. How can you become happy?
How long was the hospital stay?
It was only it was a day. It's just one day. In the UK, they get you in, they get you out. I think I probably should have stayed a bit longer, just for a bit of monitoring, because I was not in a good state of mind when I left. But I went back to my mum's house, but it was at that point where I started getting professional help. Obviously, for my family, it was the worst thing that ever happened, understandably. And I think when that happened, getting private help, it costs money, but at the end of the day, you can't put a price on a life. You can't put a price on that. So when you see someone that you care about and someone you love going through those times, if you're in a position to get any kind of professional help, you don't ask questions. You don't, you make sacrifices. You buy less branded products and you buy the store brand products, and, you don't buy that new pair of trainers you don't need. So that's kind of what happened. We got me sorted and got me with some specialists, but I'm very glad to say that for me, that was like the wake up call I needed. I wouldn't recommend it to people, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, but I remember coming out of that week and it was like, okay, this isn't you. You deserve better than this. You're not this person. And it really was my motivator. When I then started traveling 6 or 7 months later, I was living life. I decided, okay, when you come that close to losing life, you want to live it. And I try and live life every day now.
So that happened 6 or 7 months before you moved to Costa Rica?
Yeah, so I didn't initially move to Costa Rica. I came for the school, and I ended up living there for a year at the time. It was a few years after that I decided I wanted to move here to live, indefinitely. But at the time, the first thing I asked my psychiatrist when I had my first appointment was, I want to travel next year. And he said, when? And I said, March 2015. And he's like, okay, let's get to work. Let's get you healthy. Let's get you healthy enough where you can go away and, be in a good mental state, good physical, be strong. Because, when you're that ill, you become very weak. And I never became skin and bone. My body shape isn't like that. I've always been broad, which is why people thought I looked good when I was anorexic, because it never got to that point where my body was so damaged. But I think mentally it takes so much out of you. And so 7 months later, I got on a plane and, really started what would be the next chapter of my life.
So you did the school for a year, and then you went back to England, and then moved to Costa Rica?
Exactly. So I went to the school and I studied there for 9 weeks. And, due to my budget, I couldn't stay there any longer. And I wasn't really in a position to backpack and just spend loads of money. So I had to find a way to stay in this country. And one of my neighbors, where I was renting my condo at the time, he mentioned in passing him and his girlfriend had done a volunteer project, picking coffee beans, I believe they were doing. And in exchange for their work, they received 3 meals a day and a bed. And that planted a seed in my mind. And I found a farm in Costa Rica that was looking for a live-in volunteer. In exchange for 30 hours work, I would have my food and my bed. So I went there, and that was where my mental rehabilitation and my eating rehabilitation really began, because I was in nature. You know, they say to try and get outside for 30 minutes a day wherever you live, whatever the weather. I was blessed in Costa Rica to be in this beautiful, middle of nowhere farm, surrounded by dogs and sheep and chickens and, parrots flying around and macaws and everything, toucans. And I feel like there I started to see the world nicely again. After such a long time of seeing the world through like very dark eyes, you can't deny nature. And so I spent 6 months working on that farm, barely spending any of my money, because the guy that owned the farm would provide all my food. And I worked with 2 Costa Rican guys, so it was a great way to practice my Spanish. Physically as well, that type of labor in that type of heat, I felt strong for the first time in 2 years, physically strong. I saw my body changing to be a healthy, strong body. And from there, I then, the money I'd managed to save in that 6-month period working on the farm, I thought, okay, now I can travel. Now I can justify some travel because I've not really spent any of my money. I went to Brazil for 3 weeks. I went to see Pearl Jam in concert, my favorite band. I saw them twice in Brazil. I then went back to Costa Rica, and I traveled Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Mexico with 3 friends over the space of, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. But I was always drawn back to Costa Rica. Costa Rica felt like home. I was based here, and as much as I loved going to the other countries that surround, within Central America, I always felt like Costa Rica was home. And I still feel that now. England, I'm from there. I've lived in Colombia for 18 months, but when I came back to Costa Rica this week, when you find where you feel like you belong, there's no better place to be.
So tell me, how did you find DDP yoga? I'm going to change the topic and see.
Absolutely,
man. I'm going to bring it back to DDP yoga for a minute. So how did you find DDP yoga?
I wish I had DDP yoga during that time in Costa Rica. That's the one thing I wish I had at the time as well. Like that farm work plus DDPY, I think I would have been a beast.
Yeah.
DDP yoga. So I am a lifelong pro wrestling fan. As a child, WWF was my life. Absolute. Every spare moment I was playing with wrestling toys. I was watching wrestling on TV. I was watching wrestling videos. Showing my age, saying videos, not DVDs or, the network. But I was just a huge fan, absolutely huge fan. And as I got older, maybe around like 18 years old, I kind of grew out of it, not in the sense of like, I thought it was for children, but my life changed. I was spending more time outside, I guess. So I kind of lost contact with pro wrestling, but I was using Twitter. And I don't know why, but I was following DDP on Twitter. I was never like a DDP fan. Sorry, Dallas, if you ever hear this, but I was a WWF guy. I wasn't a WCW guy. Now, I knew Dallas from when he came to WWF, but I was like a WWF, I was on that side of the fence. But I followed various wrestlers, I guess, on Twitter. And one day in 2016, I think it was, he tweeted out, I'm looking to do a DDP yoga tour in the UK. can anybody recommend cities that would be open to it, or maybe even like places to hold the events? And I think I replied and said my city because I didn't want to travel to London. But anyway, it ended up being in London. And I knew nothing about DDP yoga. I'd done traditional yoga maybe 5 times in my life, just some classes for something to do. So I went to this DDP yoga workshop in London without any expectation or without any idea of what it was going to be. I just thought, oh, I'm going to meet a pro wrestler. Like, when I was younger, I never met any pro wrestlers. I never went to any pro wrestling because it very rarely came to the UK when I was younger. It was more like, I get to be a fanboy for a day and meet a pro wrestler and kind of tick that off my things to do in life. And I went to the workshop and, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I connected with it. When we finished the workshop, there was something resonating in my mind and my body, like, I like this. I don't know what it is about this, but I like what this is. And I think I like that it's fun. DDP yoga is fun. You can laugh. It's, I've done good, relaxed, traditional yoga classes, but generally they're a bit more, serious and down that kind of spiritual or meditative kind of vibe. DDP yoga is a fun way to spend time with friends. It's a fun way to spend time on your own and wake yourself up in the morning. I met DDP at the end. He waits for everybody. He speaks to everybody. And, I think my wrist still hurts from his handshake. All these years later, that's one hell of a handshake he's got. And when I left that day, he gave everybody, it was a discount card, because you came to the workshop. If you sign up for the app, you get it for this discounted price for forever. If you continue paying the subscription, you will get the same deal for forever. So I remember thinking, well, I enjoyed it. I believe you got the first week or month free, then the discounted price. It was a great deal they were giving out to people that went to the workshop. And again, I'm very much of the mindset now of like, give something a go. Just try something. And if you don't like it, okay, you learn you don't like it and you try something else. But in this case, I tried the app and really, really connected with it. And I'd suffered from back pains for a very long time, to the point where I was never like, bedbound due to it, but getting up in the morning, a shooting pain would go through my, that kind of pain you would have getting up. So that was another motivation to kind of try yoga previously. After 3 months of DDPY, until this day, I have 0 pain in my body. 0. I had years of back pains. I was I wasn't exercising regularly, but I was healthy. I was eating well, living a happy life, post anorexia, post depression, but I wasn't really exercising. So finding DDP yoga was like, oh, this is a really important part of the puzzle that I'm missing. This kind of exercise and discipline. Discipline is a word I come back to a lot when I speak to people. Discipline has a negative kind of attachment to it. If you think of discipline, you think of being in school and being disciplined by a teacher or disciplined by a parent. But discipline is like vital to living right and vital to reminding you what's important. And from that moment, September 2017 was the workshop, I believe. And from the day or the week after, I started doing the program. And, I wasn't as regimented at the beginning. I think, like most people, you start it, it's the best thing in the world. And then you get a bit bored of it, or like the old habits creep back in and you take a week off, you take a month off, you get back into it again. And April the following year, I came to Costa Rica for a week, just for a short vacation. And I took the entire week off DDP yoga because I was busy. I hadn't got that discipline cemented in my mind yet. I had the excuse was, oh, you're too busy to do DDPY. When I went back to the UK, it took me about another week to get back into doing it. When you break that habit, it's really hard to get it back together again. And I remember saying to myself, okay, not only am I going to get back into this habit, I am going to do it every day. So April 2018 until today, March 2022, whatever the weather, whatever my health, I'm very, very rarely unwell. But if I've ever been like headache or not very good, I always still do something. Demonstrate to yourself that you are worth the effort. Even if it's just a 10-minute bed flex, if it's a 10-minute wake up 2.0, if it's a solo doing stretches that you like that make you feel good. Respect yourself, respect the mat, get it done. Because when you do it, you're reminding yourself, A, I'm worth this, and B, I've got time for this. We're so good at lying to ourselves, like, I've not got time. But I guarantee you, the average person, if you tally up how much time they look at their phone during the day, that's longer than bed flex. So you can sit and do nothing on the sofa with your time you don't have, but you can't do something that's going to make you feel good. And for me, that's what I learned. By doing it every day, I realized I've got no excuse not to do this. I can make time for this. And making time is a really important way of wording that, because if you say like finding time, you're never going to find time. It's not hiding anywhere. You have to make it. We're responsible for making time. It's like, oh, I didn't have time for that. No, you didn't make time for it. Don't bullshit yourself. If something is important enough to you, you will do it. So for me, the lifestyle I live, where can I make time for DDP yoga? Where can I make time for meditation? Where can I make time for cold water therapy? For me, it's the morning. I wake up in the morning, 4:40 in the morning, because that's when no one disturbs me. I'm not constantly being harassed or phoned or anything, but during the day, it's more likely plans are going to change. It's more likely you get stuck at the office, get home late, and need to have dinner, and you can justify not doing your exercise or your meditation. If you get up early, no one's phoning you at 4:40 to ask you for a favor. They're asleep, So if you're awake and the world is asleep, you've got all the time that you need to do those things.
Now you mentioned three things that I want to touch base on. You mentioned meditation, cold water therapy, and DDP. So take me through a typical Mike Turnpenny day.
So I wake up at 4:40 in the morning. I brush my teeth. I drink half a litre of water, and I take an ice bath for 3.5 minutes. I have it's not one of those fancy freezers that we see on YouTube. I have a water tank that I have wrapped in a insulation foil that will deflect sunlight and maintain the temperature for a long period of time. So I will take a 0-degree ice bath around 4:50 in the morning, and I promise you, that is better than any cup of coffee at that time of the morning. If you wanna see who you are, take an ice bath when you wake up in the morning. If you wanna ask yourself, who am I? What am I capable of? And that's a really important thing, And that's the same with DDPY as well. Like, when you challenge yourself, you demonstrate to yourself what you are capable of. If you don't try something, you can tell yourself, I can't do that. As we say, if you say you can, if you say you can't, you're right. And for me, I was doing cold water showers for around 3 years. I saw a YouTube video many, many years ago of someone that did a 30-day cold water shower challenge, and he was raving about the effects and how much better he felt. So I started doing that for a very long time. And somebody that lives in Costa Rica has one of those freezer cold plunges. And I used it twice before I moved to Colombia. And I loved it. But due to space and budget, I wasn't able to buy myself a freezer for Colombia. But I continued the cold showers. But I got to the point where I was learning more about the Wim Hof method. I was learning more about ice therapy, cold water therapy, and I really wanted to incorporate the ice baths into my lifestyle. So I just thought to myself, well, very much like when I decided just to go to Costa Rica, I was like, well, just make an ice bath. Whatever you can do. All we can do in life is what we can do. We can't do things outside of our budget or outside of our control, but we can do what we can do. And at that time, I bought the ice tank, the water tank, and I buy 72 kilograms of ice per week. And that will keep my ice tank on my balcony in Bogota. Bogota averages between 9 and 18 degrees. I'm not sure what that is in your temperature. I apologise that I'm English. It's not my fault. I was born there.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
England reaches around. Bogota reaches around 65 Fahrenheit. But minimum will be 46. So when I wake up, it's around 46 Fahrenheit. So between those temperatures, the ice in this kind of method works. It will keep the water 0 degrees for around 3 days. And then maybe for a few days, it'll be 2 or 4 degrees. And maybe on the last day before I buy another batch, it'll be around 10 degrees. But they recommend ice therapy between 0 and 13 degrees. So that week, I'm good, So I would do the ice bath. 4:50 in the morning, I take my ice bath, 3.5 minutes. Dry myself off, get myself in some dry clothes, and I would do meditation. So I practice Transcendental Meditation, which is a silent mantra meditation. So I do 20 minutes of Transcendental Meditation after my ice bath. I then do 2 or 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing. And I then like to read for 20 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes. Just read a book, read something. And then I would do around 20 minutes of solo DDP yoga. And then I teach a private client I have online. And our classes go between 30 and 45 minutes. I should mention I'm a certified instructor. I'm not just teaching it, So that's my morning routine. So between 4:40 and around 7:30 a.m., I've done all of the stuff that otherwise I would not have time for. Then I have time for breakfast. Then I start my job. Then I start my work. And I would take another ice bath in the afternoon for around 6 minutes, and I will meditate again for another 20 minutes. And that's me done. And, it's always preference for people. The reason I like exercising in the morning, it's done, man. When I finish work, if I feel like I want to just chill out, I can. I've done the graft. The graft is done. I made time for that. It's done. I've got the evening to just, do what I want to do. There's no, there's no DDP-shaped cloud over my head, asking me when I'm going to get on the mat, because I've been there. I was there earlier. We're all good. So that's my morning. Ice bath, meditation, DDPY. Ice bath, meditation, Wim Hof breathing, DDPY.
What do you think about the Wim Hof breathing?
I think it's going to change the world. I'm a great believer in what he's doing. I think there's so much evidence and people that have demonstrated. Wim Hof's not an anti-medication kind of, but what he's saying is, we can help ourselves naturally. Not everything will be fixed by medication. I don't believe anything is fixed by medication. I think things are subdued by medication. They can take the sting out of an illness for a period of time. But when it comes to serious illnesses, Wim Hof breathing has shown, if you do this, you don't need to take medications for a long, or you can come off medication, much like DDPY, people that come off of diabetic medications and things like that. When you do what our body is supposed to do, that's a really key point here. The way we live has completely changed. If you go back to cavemen, they weren't sat down at an office, making millions for their director. They were out. They were doing things. They were climbing things. They were swimming through cold water to get to the next place. DDP yoga and Wim Hof breathing as a combination, you can live like a caveman in the modern world doing those two things. That's what I believe, and taking yourself back to nature. And again, like I mentioned previously, showing yourself what you're capable of. What can I do that I have never tried before? And ice baths are definitely one of those things. And developing your DDP yoga practice or exercise practice or whatever practice you like doing, that's how you kind of go back to that mindset of how we used to live and what our body should be doing, how our body should be cared for.
Now, describe for the people what Wim Hof breathing means.
So the Wim Hof method, the Wim Hof breathing method is between 30 and 40 deep breaths where you will breathe into your stomach, into the chest, into your head, and you will exhale it back out again. And so to demonstrate, you literally, straight spine, and you will, and you will do this 30 or 40 times, and you are releasing all kinds of endorphins in your body. You are activating parts of your immune system you didn't know existed. And after those 30 or 40 breaths, you will hold your breath. So the last inhale, you will exhale and stop breathing. So you oxygenate your blood by doing those breaths, and you can stay without breath for a long period of time. So it depends on the altitude. So when I'm in Bogota, I can hold my breath for between a minute and a minute and a half. Here in Costa Rica, I can hold my breath up to 3.5 minutes without any problem. And you will repeat that cycle 2 or 3 times, more if you can. And this, I believe the most recent evidence or science they have is that you will produce more adrenaline doing Wim Hof breathing than you will jumping out of an airplane skydiving. So that's amazing. Like if you're scared of heights, just do some Wim Hof breathing. And he does that along with the cold water therapy. And he's been doing this a long time. I highly recommend his book, The Wim Hof Method. I read it a month or so ago. And the science and the evidence behind what he's doing. He's not some, woo-woo doctor guy telling you that to stop taking medication and, follow him. He stumbled across this technique by accident due to his own personal struggles in the past. And he's just sharing this, much like Dallas. Dallas came across this program to heal himself and realized, wow, if I feel this good, other people can feel this good. I'm amazed actually Wim Hof and DDP haven't crossed paths somewhere and created some kind of like hybrid workout, because as a DDP yoga instructor now, I definitely feel I have kind of naturally incorporated the meditation and mindfulness training I've done along with the Wim Hof breathing stuff within my DDP yoga classes. I've focused on that deep breathing. I focus on the mind as well as the traditional DDP yoga style. So I'm genuinely really, really amazed they haven't somehow come across each other, because they're both crazy 60-year-old guys that are changing the world. So if they power up together, it's like Batman and Superman.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I like that. That would be awesome. I don't know what they'd call it. DDP and Wim Hof, but that's funny. Now the meditation, you said it's transcendental meditation. So you do a mantra.
Yes.
What's your mantra? Can you say? Do you mind saying?
So with Transcendental Meditation, you are given a personal mantra by your teacher. And so the reason it's a personal mantra is so it doesn't have any meaning. So if you share it, it becomes something. So
Okay, I got
the
you.
word
So
is a
you
Sanskrit.
can't share it.
The word, yeah. Unfortunately not.
Yeah.
So it's a Sanskrit word they give you. And the reason they use Sanskrit is, let's do an exercise here. If I say to you, your mantra is flower, and I say to you, close your eyes and just in your mind say flower, flower, flower. Over a few seconds or a minute, you're going to start thinking, what color is this flower? How big is this flower? What's the weather like by this flower? What other flowers are next to this flower? And all of a sudden, your mind is taking over you, and you're not focused on the sound. So using a Sanskrit word in Transcendental Meditation, I'm not sat there analyzing this word. I'm just sat there using this word as a sound anchor. So if I do start thinking about my shopping list, I just come back to an anchor, like a boat. You know, the tide pulls the boat this way, the anchor will bring it back in again. So the mantra that you have works like that. It's a way of keeping you in the present moment. If you're focused just on the sound in your mind, when your mind or your ego do wander, you just come back to the mantra and you're back in the present moment again. And, you know, meditation for me was like the icing on the gluten-free, sugar-free cake that was DDP yoga. DDP yoga was a great way of getting me started with this discipline. And physically, as we all know, you know, works wonders. And mentally as well, it's excellent. But meditation, it was like the opposite of DDPY. DDPY, you know, you make it your own, but generally it's quite a fast-paced and, you know, it can be quite an intense workout when you get to a certain level. Meditation for me was a way of bringing me back down. And I do it morning and afternoon. So for me, it's like a bookend. Start your day with a clear mind. For me, meditation is like cleaning out that cupboard in your house you've been ignoring for, you know, a few months. When you start your day by organizing, if you organize your desk before you start work, you can work a lot more productively. If you leave stuff all over your desk, you kind of like, wait, where's that thing I need? Where's that? Or what's this? Whose phone number is this? Do I need this? Meditation for me is like that. That mind clutter we develop during the night, whether it's what happened yesterday, whether it's the dreams you had at night, whether it's waking up in the morning and wondering what your day looks like today. Meditation is a great way to clear that clutter from your head before you've even begun the day. And you start with a clear mind. Like imagine like pushing the clouds out the sky and seeing the clear blue sky and the sunshine. That's what meditation is like. Doing it at the end of the day is a really good way to close the book. Like each day is like a chapter in a book, you know, and when you finish the day, you close that book and you can just relax. And meditation is a great way of closing that at the end of the day. And I've done other types of meditation too. I'm a trained, certified mindfulness and meditation instructor as well. It's something that's been really, really vital to bookend the days, and it really complements DDP yoga. You know, meditation is not like a hippie activity. It's a scientifically proven way of minimizing anxiety, creating more happiness, being more present, managing stress. Through meditation and cold water therapy, these are two great ways you can simulate stress. So I've seen you've been doing the cold plunges, right? Like,
Yeah, and I'll tell you, a story. I mean, yes, the answer is yes, but I've got to stop for a few days.
Okay, so doing a cold plunge is a way for me of simulating a stressful situation. Getting into that ice water, those first 30 seconds while you're finding your breath, you're getting yourself, as comfortable as you can be in a bucket of ice. But again, coming back to overcoming and being capable, after 30 seconds, you realize this isn't that bad. I can do this. And I notice now through my meditation practice, which has been since March 2018, twice a day, every day, And along with the cold therapy, when I'm confronted with a stressful situation, I know that I can overcome a stressful situation. If you get into an ice bath and you go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you are not in control of your actions. You are letting the stress control you. If you get in and you say to yourself, this is going to suck for 30 seconds, but I'm going to beat this. When you do beat it, that memory, that muscle memory, that mental memory, when you're confronted with a stressful situation in your personal life or in your professional life, I feel like I'm in that ice bath. When something bad or negative happens, I'm like, okay, 30 seconds, find your breath, and then deal with this. Become comfortable with the situation. You can't change the situation. If something, if you have a leak in your bathroom, if you shut the door, does it go away? No, you've got to deal with that, and you can deal with it way more effectively when you're calm. Meditation taught me that for many, many years. And I think cold therapy for me is fine-tuning that right now.
I want to tell you my story. I don't mean to interject me into your
Go ahead,
story,
man.
but I want some advice, really. I'm doing this for advice because I'm, I had been trying to lose a pound a day for 60 days, and so I cut my food down to 800 to 1,000 calories. I had been going to sauna 30 minutes every day, and then I'd been going out to the lake and taking a cold plunge for 10 minutes, and then worked up to 15 minutes. And
nice.
For here, the 3 of the days it was, and one day I fasted 24 hours. But for here it was, the weather was 20 in the 20 degrees, high 20s, 3 of those days.
Okay.
And, we're Fahrenheit, not Celsius, but so
it's like minus under zero. Yeah.
Yeah, but the 3 days ago, let's see, I think it's been 3 days now, but I went out and I did the cold plunge for 15 minutes. And I've read you're not supposed to go that long now, but I did it. And like you said, I experienced everything that you said. Every time I did, I probably did it 7 or 8 times in that span. But, going in, there's a panic. It's a panic that takes over your body, and you go to short breaths. Yeah, and but it's just as soon as you get into, I'd get down to my ears, down to this level. When I put my head under, I'd get colds like, like I was eating an icy or something and get those headaches.
Yeah.
And so I never did like going completely under. So I'd just do it down to my, to get everything in as low as I could and start the clock. And, but that panic sets over you for, it's very short-lived. I mean, like you said, 30 seconds or so, then you get your breath under control, and your body feels like needles at first, like pins, and then it's comfortable. It's hard to explain, and it's really not bad. And so then I'm just sitting there checking things out at the lake, and I feel like I could stay as long as I wanted. But anyway, that day, I'd felt a moment that I thought I was gonna kind of pass out, but I didn't, just fleetingly, and it worried me. But then it went away, and then I get out. The worst part of the whole thing is driving home. It takes me about 7, 8 minutes, 9 minutes to get home from the lake, and you're shivering, can't get warm. So then I take a hot shower. But the rest of that day, I was cramping up so bad, my whole body, and my mind was in a mental fog, and I can't tell you how bad I was cramping. One time I got up off the couch, and both my quadriceps and the muscles on the inside of the legs cramped, and I couldn't walk or do anything. I mean, it was horrible, and I couldn't do anything. I started taking pickle juice. I've got these electrolyte supplements from when I did a bike ride. I started doing them. I just started eating and drinking everything, and that whole day was horrible. I just think I overdid it, and I think I dehydrated my body too bad, and so I stopped everything for a couple of days, and then I just actually saunaed today for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But I want to do the cold plunges, but I don't want to get my body. I don't know what it is. I just think I overdid. I wasn't eating enough calories. I wasn't. I wasn't. Too long in the cold plunge. Probably too long in the sauna, and I was working out. I think I just overdid it. So that.
Yeah, it's a
and so
combination
that
of
kind
everything, I
of
would
shocked
guess,
me.
together.
So what's your advice on someone? But
Okay.
I want to say, after I got out of the water and got warm, I felt absolutely wonderful and high. Most of the morning, if not most of the day. It's kind of weird. Those endorphins, you feel great after doing it.
Yeah. So there's two key things here to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to when you first ever tried DDP yoga. If you start with Double Black Diamond 2.0, you're going to have a similar shock. If you do something that's kind of out of your level in that moment, that's not a good idea. If you go to a gym and you pick up the heaviest weight, you're going to hurt yourself. You have to start with 5 pounds and 10 pounds and build up. So cold water therapy, the second important thing to know is you only need 3 minutes of cold water between 0 and 13, which I believe is between 35 and 65, I want to say, in your Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I was looking. I looked up 13, and it looked like 55. So I'd say probably 32 to 55 would be my guess. Yeah.
Yes, 32 to 55. So you only need to do 3 minutes to receive the benefits of cold water therapy. So anything after that is a mental exercise. So when you start doing cold water therapy, if your water is between 32 and 55, 3 minutes is where you're going to hit your sweet spot and you can get out. If it's your first ever time, do a minute. I always say do a minute or a minute and a half minimum, because those first 30 seconds, whether you're new or not, are a challenge. So if you're going to try cold water therapy, as we say in DDPY, right? Leave the ego at the door. It's not about how long you do it for. It's about the effect you're going to get from it. So with the longest I've done at 0 degrees is 12 minutes. And that was after maybe 4 or 5 weeks of doing 3 or 5 minutes. I'm at the point now where my body recognizes, oh, Mike's doing the ice bath. And my body calms down, it starts doing what it needs to do, and it's quite happy. And I can kind of, sit there quite happily and enjoy the experience. And if I want to test myself, I can do longer. But what I would say to you is just do 3 minutes. Get in there, 3 minutes, get out. Do that for a week, do it for 2 weeks. Maybe the next week, try 4 minutes. If you go from having never really experienced cold therapy before to doing 15 minutes, your body is overcompensating. So going back to what I mentioned a little while ago about like the cavemen, like the type of way they lived, the type of cardiovascular lifestyle they had, and the temperatures they lived in, the water they swam in, you are activating all of those things that are dormant. So the reason that cold water therapy is great is you're making your body have to work. If you feel cold and you put a jacket on, you're telling your body, don't worry about it, I've got you. And your body goes, oh, great, I can go back to sleep. So I guess what happened in your case is you got in that water and your body had to work overtime to get you through that 15-minute stretch. I do 3 minutes 30 in the morning, 6 minutes in the afternoon, and I am happy because scientifically I know that is enough to have the results. if I ever want to challenge myself, I can do that if I wish. But if you're doing it purely for the benefits, the mental benefits, the physical benefits, there's no reason to be in there longer than 3 minutes.
And I took a thermometer the last 2 days, a floating pool thermometer, and the water lake temperature was at 51, 52 degrees, and so which would I guess be close to your 12 or 13. 10. Yeah, 10 degrees. Yeah,
10, 11.
So it, it was, man, and that whole day I couldn't get warm. And I was just cramping. It scared me. I thought about going to the ER one time and, getting an IV, but I finally got to where I'm starting to feel better. I'm going to start to go back at it again. But I'm thinking about just doing it, not every day, but doing it, 2 or 3 times a week or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
the cold plunge. I
like
the sauna.
Yeah. I sometimes combine them. So they recommend trying to warm up naturally after a cold plunge. So there are ways you can do that. If you think of like a DDP yoga, like toes and knees out, squat, drop and lower position. If you take your stance significantly wider, they call it the horse stance in Wim Hof method. So take your legs as wide as you can, lower in your glutes, straighten in the spine, and if you bring your palms together, you're not going to jack your heart rate up, but you're going to warm your core up. So by doing that and taking your stance wide, if you stand like that for a minute, 2 minutes, that will start to warm you up from the inside. Get dry, and they recommend not going straight to a warm shower. They recommend let the body do what it's capable of doing. Your body can warm itself up. Obviously, when you do the 15 minutes, it's a different story. They often say in that case you might need a hot shower or a sauna. But if you do a 3-minute plunge, give your body the chance to warm itself up naturally. Put a hoodie on, but give your body the chance to do what it can do. And much like DDP yoga, the more you do something, the easier it becomes. So now I can take. The first time I took a cold plunge at 4:50 in the morning, I sat on my couch trying to meditate like this. But now I'm doing ice baths at a colder temperature and I'm good because my body, it knows now, okay, he's in the cold water, let's get to work, let's warm him up, he's going to go on the couch now and do some meditations, let's keep him warm. It's all about those steps, like I said, you don't go from bed flex to the extreme psycho workout. You go from bed flex to bed flex 2.0 or whatever it's called, That's the way you do it, baby steps.
Well, so I didn't realize that going to the hot shower was not what you're supposed to do either. I didn't know, but I was doing that.
It's not detrimental, but they recommend giving your body the chance to warm itself naturally, because now what I find is when I go out at night in Bogota, where it's, people in Bogota are wearing like big jackets and scarves at night, I go out like this and I feel my body recognize, this is like the ice bath, and I feel my body warm itself up. It's crazy. Like, it's such a strange thing, because until you try it and until you develop that habit, you don't realize what your body is capable of. Not just what we are capable of mentally, but our body is a miracle. And it's a miracle that we have made lazy over the years. It's our responsibility to remind our body, like, hey, you're awesome. You can do loads of like crazy stuff, like we're like natural superheroes, the things our body can do. And going outside now in the cold, I feel my body recognize, Mike's in the cold situation again. Let's turn on that internal heater to keep him warm. And, it's an amazing feeling to do that, and to be outside and give your body a chance to work.
Now, I want to go back to the meditation too. I'm interested in that. You chose Transcendental, but you said you're certified in mindfulness and other types of meditations. What other types of meditations are there, and why did you choose Transcendental?
Good question. I chose TM, Transcendental Meditation, because I was still having like, not, I wasn't, it wasn't insomnia, but I was having like problems having good quality sleep. It would take a while to go to sleep, or I would wake up and feel like I wasn't really asleep. And I was looking for like herbal medication, or natural alternatives, because I didn't want to take sleeping pills, you know, like as I've, you know, I guess demonstrated a few times, I'm all about doing things as naturally as we can. And I just came across lots of people talking about transcendental meditation as a great way for anxiety, great way for better sleep. And also lots of famous people that I respect. Jerry Seinfeld has done TM since the 90s or the 80s. And he credits doing 9 seasons of Seinfeld because TM gave him a 20-minute rest to kind of recharge his brain and get back to work. So I was seeing these people I respect, and, you know, Oprah Winfrey and Russell Brand, David Lynch, these successful, hard-working people where you think, why aren't they tired? They were all crediting Transcendental Meditation. So I learnt TM. I did a 3 or 4 day course in my city with a certified instructor. And that's why I chose it. And they explain how it works. They explain the science. You know, sometimes when you do something and you don't know how it works, you start to kind of second guess it and wonder. But when they can demonstrate through like scientific evidence, you know, this is how this works, you really connect to it more. And that's why I chose TM. The reason I'm not a TM instructor, it's quite a process to become one. I can't remember exactly how you do it, but you have to really kind of dedicate a long period of time to do that, because it's a very traditional method, and not just anybody and their dog can certify to do it. So, but I wanted to share mindfulness, meditation, DDP yoga, breathing methods. So I became a certified meditation and mindfulness instructor. Simple meditations, one that everybody can do right now would be, if you want to calm your heart, if you feel anxious, if you want to slow your heartbeat, if you breathe out for longer than you breathe in, you calm your heart right down, you calm your mind down. So I recommend starting with a 3-second inhale, 5-second exhale, and you can build up to a 5-second inhale, a 10-second exhale, 10-second inhale, 20-second exhale, wherever you're at, you know, make it your own. Not every, you know, I can breathe in on a good day 10 seconds, exhale for 20 or 30 seconds. But again, 5 seconds inhale, 8-second exhale, something like that, you will notice the difference. And if you do that in the morning for 5 or 10 minutes, again, you will start the day very calm. Your heart will be a good pace, your mind will feel clear. That is a really simple meditation that I often do in the sauna. In fact, when I take a sauna, I will meditate in the sauna. And I would do that for 20 minutes in the sauna, just focusing on my breath. And much like, as I mentioned with the mantra, use your breath as the anchor. So if you start thinking about, you know, what you've got to do tomorrow, come back to counting your breath in and your breath out. Use that as your mantra if you want, you know, like that counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's your way of staying present with what you're doing. That's a great, very, very basic, anybody can do meditation. I highly recommend finding Yoga Nidra on YouTube. Yoga Nidra is a body scan meditation that is very, very good to do at any time, but it's great to do in bed at night. It's a really good way of recognizing where your body has tension, recognizing or resting those parts of the body. Yoga Nidra is excellent. You can find really good guided Yoga Nidra on YouTube. And another really, really good meditation that I recommend, it's a very old Buddhist meditation called Loving Kindness. The Loving Kindness meditation is where you send good thoughts to somebody that you love, to yourself, to somebody neutral, but most importantly, somebody you have a difficult relationship with. you could even go as far as your enemy. If you've got an enemy, Jerry Seinfeld and Newman, if you send good vibes to someone you have a difficult relationship with, you're practicing real control and real compassion. And that's a beautiful meditation you can do. Again, you can find them guided on YouTube. Loving kindness meditation, where you just send good thoughts, good wishes, good health to yourself, people you love, people you don't really know, like it could be the cashier that works in the local store that you don't know their name, but you want them to be happy. You want them to be well. You want them to have success. So these are really good ways of quieting down our ego. We are very ego driven. As much meditation as you do, you'll always have that kind of battle with the ego from time to time. And by recognizing that other people are living their own journey, if someone, speaks to you badly in the office or in a supermarket, we judge them based on how they make us feel. We never think about why they said that. It's like, oh, they made me feel like this. But why? Why did they do that? Because I'm sure we've made people feel the same before, because we had an argument with our wife before leaving the house. Or because, we didn't have time for breakfast and we're stressed. So recognizing that we're all living our own movie. Your life is your movie. My life is my movie. The script is different. The circumstances are different. And when you understand that we're all living our own good moments and our own bad moments, you start to live a more peaceful life. So they're 3 practices I recommend: breathing meditation, yoga nidra, and loving kindness.
All right, man. You mind if I take a restroom break real quick? I'm an old man. You mind if I run to the restroom?
I will do the same, because I drink a lot of water.
All right.
I'll see you back here.
Okay. All right, man. All right. You there?
I'm here, man. Your dog's being very well behaved.
Yeah, well, I don't know. She's a mess. All right. Hey, there's one more thing you said in your morning routine that we hadn't discussed. You said cold plunge, meditation, and DDP yoga. But then you also said 20 minutes of reading. Mm-hmm. What do you read every morning?
Good question. I love like self-development books, self-help books, or autobiographies by people I admire. So the reason I started reading was because I was never able to read as a child. I don't mean I couldn't read. I just didn't want to read. I had no desire to read. And my brother was, for many years, I thought my brother's face was a book, because he was just always inside of a book. And I think when I noticed more so how much people, including myself, were using phones everywhere, it wasn't the world I wanted to live in. I really didn't want to live in that world where, you go for lunch with someone, but you don't talk to them. You just show each other Instagram photos. Oh, did you see this? It's like, you're together. Like, talk to each other. And I decided, this began before reading. I started by not looking at my phone for the first 2 hours of every day. So when I woke up, instead of just waking up and, cleaning my teeth, checking social media or checking emails, checking my WhatsApp, I wanted to just, let the stress come later. If you start your day by reading a negative work email, it's like, you're not at work yet, give yourself a chance. So it began like that, where I just wanted to have that distance with social media. I don't have social media on my phone. If I want to access it, I have to go through like Safari or use my laptop. I don't have any apps on my phone. Everything on my phone serves a purpose. Every app I have serves a purpose. And from there, I decided, I can use this time to read and to better myself and learn something. And especially after coming out of like the anorexia, the depression, and like trying to better myself, I wanted to, every day I'm looking for ways to improve my routine. Like, I think I've got a great routine, but you can always improve yourself. You're never the finished article. You can always improve something. And reading was something I wanted to do. I was like, okay, after years of meditating, my mind was less busy. I was less hectic in my mind. So I was able to focus on a book. And to give you some books I've read recently, I read Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. I read The Wim Hof Method by Wim Hof. I'm currently reading a book called Zen Listening, like the art of listening. I read a book called The 7 Spiritual Laws to Success. It's a book by Deepak Chopra. So I'm always reading books that are going to show me something, teach me something, or as a bonus, I like it when books reconfirm something I already believe. So, you know, sometimes I'll read something, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I do that or I believe that, and now I'm kind of backed by science that I'm doing the right thing. So, and I think reading 20 minutes in the morning, I don't want to give an example here because I'm not sure if this is exactly correct, but there's some kind of evidence that it's a really good way of improving memory or intelligence or retaining memory. So generally, even though we believe we choose what we follow on social media, we're still kind of seeing things that we don't really want to see or need to see, or maybe we don't need to see them at 4:40 in the morning when our alarm goes off. By reading a book, you are absorbing what you want to absorb. You've chosen that book over that person's post that's maybe negative. It might be a friend of yours that you love, but if you start your day by thinking, oh man, Mike's feeling sad today, you start to feel sad. And it's not about being selfish, you know, it's about protecting your mind. You know, you have to look after your mind the way you look after your body, you know. You know, you can put pizza in your body from time to time, but when the moment's right, and you can absorb negative news, but when you're prepared for it. So reading was a really good way of replacing this kind of like phone habit or the iPad habit or the laptop habit with educating myself and doing something that's going to make me feel good. And lastly as well, like, you know, going to a coffee shop. It's nice being like often the only person with a book, you know, when you see everybody just looking at their phones. I think, you know, that maybe that sounds a bit critical of people. What I mean is, like, meditation has taught me, I believe, to be more present. And I think very often what we absorb on social media is based in the past or based in the future. It's not very present. And reading a book, you're just focused on that one activity of what you're doing. You're not absorbing like countless pieces of information, especially in the morning when, you know, I've lived in the same apartment for nearly a year, and sometimes in the morning I don't know where the kitchen is. I'm so tired, you know, like where's the kitchen? Like, you know, if you then add on top of that, like all of this color from our mobile phones or cell phones, all of the information we absorb in a very short period of time. You know, if you think that you've got, I would guess you've got contacts all over the world on Facebook. You could read about the politics in Australia and the UK in the space of 3 seconds, and your mind is like, you know, like, give me a chance to wake up, you know, have a glass of water, clean your teeth, do something good for me. We can come to this later. It's not going anywhere. So that's where the reading habit came from, and they're the type of books I like to read. But I think, yeah, read whatever you're drawn to. But, you know, self-help often sounds like you're looking for something or you lack something. But I think if it's people you respect or authors that you know about, it's more about gathering information, much like this podcast. You know, you're picking the brains of different personalities. I don't expect anybody that listens to your podcast to follow exactly what this person said. I'm going to live like this person, or I'm going to follow Mike's morning routine. What I do might not work for somebody, but they can say, you know what, I might try a cold plunge. I might try meditation. I might try DDPY in the morning rather than the afternoon. And you go through life, I believe, collecting jigsaw pieces. You know, and I consider myself an agnostic person. I don't follow a religion, but I take things from different religions. You know, I meet people all over the world. I meet Christians, Catholics, I meet Muslims, I meet Buddhists. And I can be like, oh wow, like that value they've got, I really like that, and I will take that value, but that other value like doesn't really fit in my life or my values. I don't really connect to that. Then I'll meet another person and take that, and I believe that life is building blocks, and so that's what I recommend people. Don't follow someone like they are the only guru. Do what works for you. Don't be afraid to try new things, but don't be afraid to drop them as well. Don't be afraid to be like, what, this habit, it's not for me. I'm going to try something else. And when I talk about DDPY to people that don't do it, I'm very transparent. I'm the worst salesman. I will never be rich, because I will say to them, this might not be for you. Maybe you won't like my DDP yoga class, but try it. Because maybe you'll think, what, that's not for me, but I might try Pilates. I might try traditional yoga. Or vice versa. Someone might do traditional yoga and be like, oh man, I wish this was more like, more of a workout. And then they see like a power yoga class or a DDP yoga class, and they're like, oh my God, like I didn't know this existed. So put your foot in the water and, test the waters, but don't be afraid to say, what, that's not for me. Maybe someone will try a cold plunge due to this podcast, but they just won't connect to it. They won't feel the benefits they want to feel, but they might try swimming in a lake. I'm going to go for a swim in a natural lake instead. I won't sit in cold water, but I will swim. Or maybe they go to a pool, just create your own jigsaw, and don't be afraid to change it.
What do you have any favorite books you want to recommend to people? That books that really made an impression on you or changed your life?
Yeah, I read an excellent book by Russell Brand, which is called Recovery. Russell Brand, people may or may not know him. He's the English comedian that did lots of movies in the US. He was married to Katy Perry for a couple of months. He is a recovering alcoholic, heroin addict, sex addict, and he wrote a book called Recovery: Freedom from Our Addictions. And it is a very real, he talks to you like a real person. Sometimes when you speak to doctors, you kind of get lost in the medical spiel they speak like. But he has basically rewritten the 12-step program. It's like, yoga for regular guys. It's like a 12-step program for regular guys, like removing lots of not removing the religious aspect of it, but for people that would maybe be turned off by that aren't religious, who would think, oh, this is a religious program. Ironically, he is religious, but he has tried to kind of modernize it. If you're suffering from any kind of burden or addiction, whether it's a recognized addiction such as alcoholism or drug addiction, or if it's an addiction to something, this book is a really good way of fine-tuning those habits, asking yourself the questions maybe you've not asked yourself before about your decisions, the why you make decisions, what you can do differently. So yeah, Recovery by Russell Brand is very, very good. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, excellent book. He lived as a monk for, I believe it was between 3 and 5 years, he lived as a monk. But he realized his dharma, his purpose, was not to live as a monk. It was to share what he had learnt as a monk. So the book is about, the average person can't give up their life to go and live as a monk. But you can live as a monk and work a corporate job and be a parent and be a husband or a wife. And it's how you can incorporate the things he learned through his monk training in your day-to-day life. That was really, really good. There's another book too that was really, really impactful on me. The Power of Now. I think everybody's read it or they've heard of it. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is a demonstration of, the power of being present. What we can achieve by learning how to block out that noise, block out the ego, learn from suffering. Don't dwell on suffering. Suffering hurts, but it hurts more if you hold on to it. if you hold on to pain, you're going to feel pain for a lot longer. If you let go of it and you recognize that sucked, but what did I learn from it and how can I not feel that pain again? Power of Now was a tremendous book. And there was another book I read called Rewire. I forget the name of the author. In fact, maybe I have it here on my shelf. No, I don't. But it's a yellow, I remember it's a yellow front cover. It's called Rewire. And very similar to the other books, it's about recognizing the negative cycles that you live in. You know, we all develop these habits and we complain about our situation, but we never change that cycle. And Rewire is about kind of getting inside that mechanism and being like, okay, this habit I have never leads me anywhere good. So I am going to change that. That was really, really powerful. And if similar to how I was when I began reading a few years back, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, it's about 90 pages, very easy to digest, very easy to read over a couple of days. You know, I don't recommend starting with Jobs by Steve Jobs. You know, it's like the size of the Bible. It's very intimidating if you see that. But those kind of books, I really highly recommend. Or again, much like me, if you're new to reading, if you've never been a reader before, just ask yourself what you're interested in. You know, maybe you enjoyed the Lord of the Rings movies, and you're going to connect with those books. That's a really good thing too. Like, you know, what movies do I like that are also books? You know, to help your attention. If you're familiar with the premise of a story, it's much easier to be absorbed by it because you know what's going on because you're familiar with the story. So, but for me, I like to find these books that are going to challenge my way of thinking and show me new ways of living, reconfirm ways that I do live. And, you know, they're a great way for a conversation, you know, like it's so much, I never realized how much people talk about books until I started being a reader, and sharing what you learn from a book or recommending books like I am now is, it's like sharing wisdom with people.
Now, do you have a ritual you do at the end of the day?
Just my meditation that I do in the late afternoon to close out the day. So this week I'm on vacation, so I haven't got my ice bath here. But normally in Bogota, around 4 p.m. I would take my second ice bath. Sometimes I would take a sauna as well, and then I would meditate. And that's kind of it. You know, I like to put on like my evening clothes. Again, I read a book and it was talking about the way you dress changes how you feel. If you're going for a job interview, you feel intelligent if you dress smart. Literally, like if you dress in nice clothes, you feel smart, you feel intelligent. And they were saying in this book I read, if you work remotely in your pajamas, you're going to feel lazy. You're going to feel like you want to be in bed because you're in your pajamas. Put on your day clothes. Put on your work clothes when you're working at home. Because it will tell your brain, it will tell your body, this is daytime. So you've got to think like it's daytime. You've got to feel like it's daytime. If you put your pajamas on or keep your pajamas on, your body's like, it's all right. You know, I'll do stuff later. So when I finish work and I finish my meditation, I like to put on just like some relaxing evening clothes to tell my body it's time to shut down now. I find that if I stay in the same day clothes, I still feel like it's daytime and I have to be thinking about stuff. So I'm a big believer in, you know, how our mind changes depending on circumstances.
Does what do you do for a living now? I mean, what do you do type of work now?
So right now I am teaching one-on-one online DDP yoga classes to private clients. I am doing life coaching to people all over the world in various countries. And I am also doing some like conversational English tutoring. You know, it's a very easy thing and fun thing to do when you live abroad. So I spend a lot of my time learning about other cultures just through conversations with people in different parts of the world. Trying to build up my union power coaching, which is DDPY, meditation, and life coaching. And just, piece by piece, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. I've always wanted to be successful, but I've always wanted to be happy first. I think sometimes if you overwhelm yourself at the beginning, you take the fun out of your passion. My passion is DDP yoga, meditation, and coaching and helping people. And I want to enjoy it. I really want to enjoy it. It's a real thrill for me that, Monday through Friday, I wake up and I share DDP yoga with a private client. It's like, wow, like I see the impact that I have on his life. He puts the work in, but, through knowing each other, and I sometimes feel more like he is my accountability partner. Even though I'm the instructor, seeing him improve physically and mentally, that motivates me to continue improving myself and be a better instructor, be a more patient instructor, just be the best I can be. Because when you see the impact you have on other people, that is what gives me more satisfaction. Like I could have more clients, like loads more clients and more money. But if I was busy and like, if you begin resenting, like, oh man, I've got to teach this person now, I've got to teach that person now, it kind of becomes a job. They say that to live the dream, you have to find what you love and how you can make enough money out of it. Not become a millionaire out of it. That's a bonus. If you can do that and enjoy it still, all the power to you. But that's not who I am. For me, it's about how can I make enough money to pay my bills, buy my food, and just, wake up with a smile on my face, man. That's the most important thing, which, bookends how we began. When I was so depressed and so anxious, now something as simple as just waking up with a smile, that is worth so much more than having all the money in the world but being depressed. Like that's like smiling at somebody is the greatest gift you can give somebody. That's what's been so sad about the pandemic. Wearing masks, I'm smiling at people but they've got no idea.
So how did you become a certified life coach? Tell me a little bit about that.
So that happened, the seed was planted at the school I went to in Costa Rica when I actually worked there years after being a student. When I moved to Costa Rica, I worked there for a period of time in like student relations. And there was a student I was speaking to. He was a middle-aged guy. He was like 40 or 50. He was there with his children. And we were talking about meditation and mindfulness. And he said to me one day, like, you should teach that here. He said, if there was a mindfulness program at this school, he said, I would do that. And another student said, I'd do that as well. Like, that would be a great combination with the yoga. And then more and more people are like, yeah, like, when you speak, you seem very knowledgeable about the things you speak about. And there's like a sincerity in when you share things. And it planted the seed for like mindfulness, meditation, to be an instructor. And so I decided to do that. And then the life coaching, that came through conversational English. Because what I noticed was I specialize with advanced learners. So people that want to have a conversational lesson, not people that want to learn, grammar. And what I noticed was that I was giving somebody a half an hour conversational English class, but it was becoming a coaching session. The people I was attracting, and I guess due to my personality, due to kind of being a bit of an open book, people were really kind of confiding and asking my advice and my help. And I actually said one day when I finished that I feel like I was just like on a podcast, not doing a conversational English class. I feel like I was giving advice to somebody, not improving their English. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I was using lots of my mindfulness and meditation training and my life experiences you have to be careful when you coach people not to kind of tell them all of your previous woes. You have to like know where to draw the line where it's not about you, it's about them. But you can drop hints here and there that you understand their situation due to having lived something similar. So I decided, well, I like doing this and I think I'm good at it. That's often been a problem of mine. I was never the most confident. So like feeling like I'm good at something has always been a challenge. But I was like, well, let's give this a go. So I did lots of research, lots of reading, and I did a life coach online program. To be clear, you don't have to have a certification to be a life coach. You can do it. There's no laws currently, but I wanted to study just to kind of, make myself better. So I received my diploma in life coaching tail end of last year, and I've always sucked at exams. I've always been a bad student, never been very academic. And I got 90% on the exam. I was shocked, I was like, wow, like I've never got 60% on an exam before, and passing DDP yoga certification, passing life coaching certification, it really kind of reconfirmed for me that, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're passionate about. This is what you're naturally good at. The scores don't lie. This is your kind of dharma. This is your calling. This is your purpose. So yeah, I started Union Power Coaching, which is, Union Power is about uniting together to become more powerful. When you work together, when you respect each other, anything's possible. So, and also there's, the power that comes from DDP yoga, the powerful kind of like power yoga. Union is the translation of the word yoga. So I had lots of different connections here that I liked. So Union Power Coaching was born, and yeah, now I'm doing the DDP yoga coaching, classes, as well as the life coaching. And I do the English conversation as well because I enjoy it, it's not making me rich, but like I really enjoy doing that. And I feel like I learn from my students, much like I said, my DDP yoga client kind of inspires me. Speaking to people in different parts of the world and learning about how they live, you learn a lot about the world, you learn the truth about the world. A lot of what we read is not a fair representation of a culture. So speaking to people, 1 minute I'm in South Korea, then I'm in Saudi Arabia, then I'm in Turkey, then I'm in Brazil, speaking to people, and like you're, picking the brains of these people, and like I said earlier, taking piece of the puzzle from them. Like, how do they live? How do they live? What do they believe? What do they believe? What are their values? And I kind of absorb that information, which I believe makes me a better coach, because I have I believe, a wide understanding of various lifestyles and cultures.
Now, I want to ask you, well, let me ask you this question first. What's the future hold? What are the future goals of Mike Turnpenny and Union Power Coaching?
So my current goal, I am doing a traditional yoga certification because I want to combine the two. I want to appeal to more people. I will always fall back myself to a DDP yoga style, but I also enjoy doing, I call it yoga, DDP yoga and yoga. I enjoy yoga as well. I'm more passionate about DDPY, but I believe that by developing a better understanding of traditional yoga, that will make me a better DDP yoga instructor, and I will have a better understanding again of people. If I have someone come to a DDPY class that's only done yoga before, okay, I can kind of cater to that. I can understand where their mind comes from, and vice versa. So I want to become certified as a yoga instructor. I want to build Union Power. As I said, I don't want to be full. I want to build a few more clients, help a few more people, help people not make the same mistakes I made, or help people move on from the mistakes like I made. And a big difference between coaching and therapy is helping you overcome the past. Coaching is about helping you live the best present. So I'm not here to give people therapy and counseling, but I'm here to help them restructure the life they have now. You know, the past is done. As I mentioned earlier, we have to respect it and acknowledge it, but we can't be buried in the past and we can't be lost in the future. We have to be here. So my goal is to get my yoga certification and continue to learn from other people. I think the best way you can help other people is to learn from the same people. You know, learn how someone else thinks, and you can understand how you can help them more. You know, when okay, this person thinks like this, and that's a really important value for them. Therefore, I can help them this way. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Every client will be different. You know, our friends are all different, right? If you want advice, you might go to this friend for financial advice, this friend for emotional advice. Coaching's kind of the same, you know, when you receive people, you have to think, okay, how can I give them advice? What are they looking for? What experiences, what knowledge do I have that I think could be beneficial? And usually it will start with like discipline and routine. That seems to be a really good way of, like, the foundations for a positive transformation is to set that foundation of your routine and your discipline, whatever it may be. And I just want to be happy. You know, it sounds like such a cliche, but my goal in the future is to be a good man, good husband, maybe a good father one day, and live a life that I'm proud to live. And I think lead by example. You know, like, it's one thing coaching someone, telling them to get up at 4:40, but you've got to live that life. You've got to lead by example. You've got to demonstrate to people, look, I'm living proof that, you know, trying these methods has a positive effect. So yeah, I just want to be a good representation of, you know, the values I have. I want to share the values that I have, and yeah, just, I want everyone to be happy. I don't care what your background is, what your beliefs are. I think everybody has the right to be happy, and whatever makes someone happy, we have no right to really criticize that, unless they're robbing banks. You know, maybe we can criticize that. But if making someone happy is, you know, just going for a dog walk, you know, I wish them the happiest of dog walks. Or if it's going to the gym and, you know, pumping iron, you know, do some pumping for me as well.
So I'm just curious. I'm going to change topics a little bit again. I'm just curious, you know, you being a British citizen, and now you've lived in Costa Rica and Colombia for extended periods of time. How does that, how does that work, and how does that affect your citizenship? And in America, I think we call them expats when they go live abroad. I don't know what if that's the same term for British citizens.
I believe so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So tell me how that works, and what did you learn, and from, what advice could you tell someone who may want to go live abroad and that kind of thing?
At the end of every country is different with regards to their requirements. So when I lived in Costa Rica, anybody can enter Costa Rica for 90 days on a tourist visa. You don't have to apply for a visa. I mean, some countries might have to apply for a visa, but like from the UK, when you enter, they stamp your passport, 90 days, that is your visa in your passport. So when I lived in Costa Rica previously, every 90 days, I had to, we'd call them visa runs. So you would go to another country, so you would leave Costa Rica, and you would re-enter, get a new 90-day stamp in your passport. There are ways to gain residency in Costa Rica, but it often involves, putting large amounts of money in a bank account, or maybe having a family having a baby in Costa Rica. They would consider your child Costa Rican by being born here, so therefore you gain residency. So, Colombia was different. You have 6-month maximum visa. So you can go there for 3 months, then you can leave, you can return for 3 months, and then you can't return again until the following year. I was able to gain a visa due to being in a legally registered relationship. So due to my girlfriend being from Colombia, I was able to apply for a visa that would last for a year, and then I can renew it again. So the advice I would give people when going to another country is just make sure that you know what their requirements are. Because I've known people that kind of don't do their research, or they think that every country is the same, and they get there and they can't come in for various reasons. Especially now with like COVID, different countries have different requirements. Some people require you to have the vaccine, some don't. Some require you to have insurance against COVID in case you get it in their country, so you're not using their health system and not paying for it. So if, like me, you kind of want to pack a bag and go and experience something else, just see what the requirements are for the country. Talk to people that have done it. Like, I was really fortunate where I met, especially going to the school I went to, people there were living the life that I was about to start living. So you can pick their brains and be like, so you just took a bus to Nicaragua and walked across the border and came back 3 hours later and you're good? They're like, yeah, that's all you got to do. You haven't got to fly home or anything like that. My UK residency still stands. I have my passport and I'm all good. I've not been to England for 2.5 years due to COVID. I got, stuck in Costa Rica due to the pandemic. There are worse places to get stuck. And then from there I went to Colombia, and only recently I believe the restrictions in the UK allow that I can go to the UK without quarantining. Depends on the country again, like some countries could enter the UK no problem, because I was in Colombia, politics get involved and that's a red zone. So therefore you have to quarantine for 2 weeks and pay $3,000 for a quarantine hotel and all this kind of stuff. So just do your research and don't be afraid to ask people what you feel are obvious questions. I asked so many stupid questions to people when I started this lifestyle. Like, so when I go to the border, I go to the immigration, right? They're like, well, yeah, obviously. I'm like, okay, but I'm glad that I know now, for sure. And just ask questions, be curious. And as I mentioned at the very, very beginning, like if it don't work out, go somewhere else. Go home, hatch a new plan, go somewhere else, and just never be afraid to fail. I think it's the coach of Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter. He says, win or learn.
Yeah. So how long did you live out of a backpack? What's the longest you've lived out of the backpack moving around?
I think, for a year, like the first year in Costa Rica, I arrived with a suitcase because I'd never done backpacking before. I'd done holidays before, with my family, 2-week holidays in one hotel. So I arrived with a full suitcase, and very, very quickly I had to get rid of about, 3/4 of my things that I realized I didn't need, and just a backpack. And it's liberating, when you live minimally, you realize all of the kind of things that you live with that are, they're nice, but they're not essential. And I think a great example of this is the type of food we buy, especially in other countries. When you travel to another country, if you buy the imported products from your home country, don't complain they're expensive. Of course they're expensive, they've been imported. So letting that kind of stuff go, living like a local, helped me and taught me to be more minimal. Like Costa Rica is rice and beans. That's that kind of food. I have eaten rice and beans for the last 7 years, and I think it's the best food in the world. It's a complete protein. A nutritionist told me actually that when you eat rice and beans together, it creates the same complete protein as meat. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan like I am, rice and beans is an excellent way of getting that complete protein. Backpacking, minimalism, realizing what's important. When you've only got a backpack to fill, you realize what your priorities are and what you need. You don't need 5 pairs of sneakers. You barely need one in certain parts of the world. You can wear one and you can attach a pair of flip-flops to your backpack and you're good to go. And same with clothes. Have enough clothes where you can chuck them. It depends where you backpack. In my case, if I could throw my t-shirt, I'm under in a bucket and dry them overnight in a hostel in Central America. You don't need many t-shirts, you know. You can just have 3 in rotation. You know, don't be afraid to go commando a few days if you forget to wash your underwear. You know, just let it all hang out.
That's funny. That's funny. You know, you're living the life that people dream about, you know, that they think they want. Now, you met, what took,
I think it's great.
What took you to Bogota?
Love, you know, the things we do for love. Love took me to Colombia. You know, when I mentioned earlier about learning Spanish, I met the Colombian person I mentioned in my home city in 2014. And we spent 3 months together, the last 3 months of her visa in the UK, and, you know, circumstance and geography kind of separated us, and she went her way, I went my way, and we kind of stayed in contact, kind of like pen pals, you know, like old-fashioned pen pals. Maybe not completely old-fashioned, more by email, you know, email pals. So maybe once a year we'd receive like a very long, you know, how are you? This is my life now, this is what I'm doing, this is where I've been, these are my plans. So we'd kind of keep in contact, but we very much moved on with our lives. I had a relationship, she had a relationship, and there was never any kind of suggestion it would ever lead back to anything. It was very much like that was then, this was now. And during, you know, when the pandemic began, you know, my relationship ended. And you know, I received that email I mentioned. You know, she just dropped me an email like, hey, how are you? Like, you know, what are you doing? How's the situation wherever you're living? You know, I don't think she knew if I was in England or Costa Rica. And we just started talking again. And it seemed like we were in a very similar situation. We both come out of a long-term relationship. We were both kind of in this unknown pandemic lifestyle, and at the beginning it was very much, it felt like pandemic companionship, having somebody that wasn't your neighbor or your housemate to speak to about things. And it, you know, we kind of connected like we connected all those years ago very, very quickly again, and both still very open-minded to the fact that she lived in Colombia, I was in Costa Rica. We were both coming out of relationships, and we just enjoyed kind of friendship and companionship for a while. And, you know, 4 or 5 months later, it kind of seemed like, okay, well, the world has stopped. You know, like, if there's ever a time to throw caution to the wind and just do something, this is the time. Because, you know, maybe you remember, like, it depends on the person, but people genuinely thought, like, is this how the world ends? Is this the end of the world? Like, is this really what's going to finish us all off? And I just thought, well, if this is the end of the world, I want to at least do one more crazy thing. So the borders were shut, so I had to wait a period of time until the borders would open again. And I went to Colombia with an open mind. Just, you know, let's just go and see this person, reconnect with this person, you know, on a friendship basis. But we were obviously like emotionally connected, but it was more like, let's just go and spend some time. And it became very apparent very quickly that, you know, we were being brought back together by the universe or some kind of power. And from that moment, again, maybe due to the fact that the world was in such a confusing moment, I just realized, man, like, this is the person I'm supposed to be with. I'm gonna stay here and see what happens. And, you know, we got married at the end of last year, and it just very much feels like everything happens for a reason. And, you know, to call back again to what I mentioned earlier about holding on to pain, the pain that I felt when she had to go back to Colombia 7 or 8 years ago, if I had held on to that, I wouldn't have allowed myself this opportunity. I let that pain go, as did she, and we let life take us. And by letting life take you in the direction you go in, you never know who you're going to, like, reconnect with, whether it's on romantic relationship level, or maybe it's just like a good friend. Maybe you lose contact with a good friend because they get a job in another city or another country, and you've always got to be open to that. And I went to Colombia with a very open mind, and very, very happy, and very happy that the universe works in mysterious ways. And we're now planning our next move. Where do we want to be? Do we want to be in Colombia? Do you want to be in Costa Rica? Do you want to be in Timbuktu? Who knows? The world's opening up again, so our minds are opening even more because there are more and more options becoming available. So that's how I ended up in Colombia. And again, just follow the gut. Sometimes if we listen to our head too much, we make the wrong decision.
I'm pretty sure I saw this movie, but it was staged in America, and it had Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Tom Hanks in New York and Meg Ryan in Seattle. It's called You Got Mail. You Got Mail. I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie already.
I might have to make a Latin version of it. Appeal to
yeah,
the Latin
that's right. That's right. From UK to Bogota. But I think it's funny that you met her in your hometown in UK, all this traveling, and you met the love of your life at home, from Bogota, Colombia.
Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
always
funny.
think she was looking for me.
Yeah, she was looking for
me. Yeah, I think so.
That's greatness. Well, congratulations on getting married. I saw a picture of her that I think you sent me through Facebook.
I did, yes. I sent you a photo of the wedding.
Yeah, and I have to say she's you stepped up in class considerably, I'd say.
I think I'm still punching above my weight a little bit. I'm waiting to get knocked out by the bigger boxer, I think. But if you don't ask, you don't get, right?
That's right. Well, congratulations, man. Congratulations. I'm glad the world's working out for you.
Thank you very much.
Now, if I have my timeline right, 2014, it's when you were having your anorexia problems. Did you meet her during that period?
Great observation.
How was that?
Even better question. So the interesting thing about this, and I believe partly why we have such a good connection, is, without sounding like I am writing a romantic movie, she was the first person I met when I was very, very ill. So she was like the first new person I met. So she knew nothing about my past, nothing about my issues. And all of my friends and my family were aware of some of my issues. So you feel like their perception of you changes. But when you meet somebody new that knows nothing about you, they judge you for who they see. They don't judge your past or your current situation. And when I met her, and I really believe this is why I was so connected to her and vice versa, is I was like, oh my God, like, I hate myself, but this person thinks I'm great. Maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am. Because this person that knows nothing about the dark side of what's happening in my life has completely accepted me for who I am, with all of my quirky habits and quirky behaviors and everything. She kind of, I don't want to use the word love because we met, it was a very short time, but, cared for me or loved me in a way that was sincere and authentic. And I believe that was another important element for me, that, okay, maybe I'm not this bad person I'm telling myself I am, because this new person has come into my life and embraced me and accepted me for who I am. And even when I eventually told her about my struggles, she just kind of didn't judge. She told me that she knew somebody from her high school that had suffered from similar, eating problems, anorexia problems, and it was kind of nice. As I mentioned, she didn't understand, but she was able to be like, okay, I'm aware of this stuff, and I've experienced, through other people this before, and very supportive and just wanted me to be happy. So we met around the time. I met her before it got bad. I mean, after she went back to Colombia, I'm not blaming her, you know, you're in charge of your own life at the end of the day, but I think her leaving the UK, I lost the distraction I had. I think even though she did help me, I also used that kind of relationship and as a distraction from the reality. You know, you can't, as I mentioned again earlier, you know, you can't run from reality and truth. You have to really fix it. And I think rather than fixing my problem whilst enjoying being with her, I just ignored the problem and enjoyed being with her. So when, you know, circumstances, her visa and just life took her away from my life, I was just left with me again and the same baggage I'd been ignoring for, you know, three or so months. So yeah, so she met me at my worst, and she still, all those years later, she wanted who I truly am. She always saw through the grey cloud. She, you know, I always said to her, like, she never gave up on me. We may have lost contact and she may have had to have gone back to Colombia, and we may have started new relationships with new people in that kind of, that 6-year gap. But regardless of my health and the things I said or did to myself or to other people, she knew who I truly was. And I think to connect again all those years later, I'm so glad that now she can have the best version of me that's ever existed. Because if anybody deserves that version of me, it's the person that loved me when I was the worst possible version of me. So, you know, without getting too sentimental or making all the listeners cry, you know, that's kind of how I feel. Like she loved me at my worst. She loves me at my best. So, you know, that's true love or true friendship, or, you know, when people treat you that way, when they accept you in your best and your worst moments.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm proud. Congratulations, man.
Thank you ever so much.
I'm getting close to the end. I know I've kept you 2.5 hours.
No worries, man.
On your Saturday. But
it's been a pleasure. Like, it's been so much fun.
Yeah. What advice would you have someone who's just, say, starting out, wanting to change their life, wanting to, you know, turn their life around? What advice would you have for someone starting out on their journey?
Great question. I think that the first piece of advice I would give anybody is do it for you. You know, do it for yourself. Don't do it because you think your, you know, girlfriend or boyfriend, husband or wife will love you more. Don't do it because you want to post, you know, cool pictures online. That's a bonus, man. Like, that stuff comes later. That's the reward. You know, you've got to mix the ingredients to make the cake. And I think at the beginning, you've got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this for me? If your motivation comes externally, that's going to run out. That battery will run out of juice. Do whatever you are doing for yourself. Make yourself proud. And a positive side effect is other people will then be proud of you. You know, do it for you. Make yourself proud. And don't rush. You know, in my case, maybe not my personal case, but let's focus kind of on the transformations and the weight losses, you know, as you've focused on in the past with people. If your goal is to lose some weight or lose a lot of weight, and you're, you know, if you're between 16 and 50, you've still got your whole life again if you live right. You know, don't think like, I've got to transform myself in 3 months, I've got to hit this hard. You're going to burn yourself out. Do it smart, work out smart, think smart, eat smart. Don't be afraid to ask for help, ask for advice. But most importantly, be your own motivation and be prepared for that first month on the scale to be disappointed. Now, I don't want to sound negative, but let's do the extreme example. You know, let's take people who are in the 500 pound mark. There's a high possibility you might be 480 in a month, 490, 495. This is a start. You know, you are doing something that you've not done ever, potentially, or for a very long time. This is a process. This is like learning a new skill, learning a new language, learning a new computer system. You don't walk into a new job and I know how to do this now. Changing your life is the same. You are completely changing everything you've ever known, rewiring your brain to new thoughts, new habits. Be prepared to fail. Be prepared to feel disappointed. Because when you prepare yourself for that, it stings a lot less. If you think to yourself, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk and I'm going to be the next Arthur Borman, the next Vance Hines, you know, again, that's compromising your motivation. That's external. You're looking externally. Do it for you. Do it well. If you're going to do it properly. You know, like, you know, on the DDP Yoga Facebook group, again, I'm not being critical, but I see people ask, like, have I got to eat well or can I just do the program? You know, ask yourself, why do I not want to change my eating too? Because you're not going to get the results that you see, whether it's on the Facebook group or whether it's through the YouTube videos that DDPY puts out there. You've arrived this far. You've arrived to the DDP Yoga Facebook group. You've arrived there for a reason. You're curious about changing your life. You're curious about Vance's story. You're curious about Arthur's story. You're curious about what's the challenge called? I've completely forgotten the name of the challenge. The Positive Unstoppable Challenge. You've seen the winners. Yeah, the Vance's challenge. You know, you've seen these results. You're curious. They didn't do it by doing it half-assed, as we say in English, in England. You know, they did it by dedicating their time, their passion, and their energy. So if you're going to do it right. You know, I'm not talking do it for an hour every day and become jacked. But if you want to change, you know, again, focusing on weight loss, that starts with food, and the exercise is what's going to help you out. If you do Fat Burner 2.0 4 times a week, but you're then eating double or 3 times the calories that you burn in that workout, you know, it's just look at the balance of that, you know. So my advice to people is ask yourself why you're motivated for you. Why do I need to do this? And a great example, often people don't see why. I can give you some examples without naming names. You know, people have children. Look at your kids, you know. Do you want to run around in a park with your kids, or do you want to wait on the bench? You know, do you want to be there for your kids, depending on how serious your kind of health condition? Do you want to be there for your kids in a few years' time? And those motivations, again, you know, it sounds like I'm contradicting myself with the external, but that can be your motivation. Like, I love my family, I love my kids. Or maybe you want to go traveling, but you're worried about your health. Like, you know, maybe I can't hike that volcano because of my weight, my health. You know, external isn't endorsement from others. You know, external is when you take something from someone, like my kid deserves to play in the park with me. You know, that motivates me to sort myself out. And, you know, the respect you develop for yourself is unparalleled to anything. You know, like, again, I can't talk here as a DDPY physical transformation story, but from my other struggles I've had in the past and the ways I've overcome them, DDPY being a core element of that, you know, I'm proud to share what I've been through, and that's not coming from an ego or an arrogant place. That's because I can sit here today and be like, wow, like, I dedicated myself to changing my life, and I can sit here now happily and comfortably, you know, happy in my mind, happy in my body, and, you know, find what motivates you, do it for yourself, and do it well. You know, really, really do it. And like a kind of a half joking one, if your heart monitor doesn't work, just throw it on the couch and do the workout anyway. You know, don't not do the workout because your Wahoo ticker doesn't want to work. You know, like, these gadgets that we use with DDPY are great. If you can't find your jack strap, do the workout anyway. You know, if you can't find your yoga socks that help you not slip so much, do the workout anyway. You know, I don't know where this came from originally. I believe I read it when Stephen David posted this a few years ago. He said, excuses are lies. So if your reason to not work out is because your heart monitor didn't connect, it's not a reason. You're lying to yourself. It's a way to not do it. Throw all that stuff to one side, get on the mat, do it for you, and your life will change.
All right. Well said. Well said. Now, I ask this next question to everybody, because social media has been such a big part of my journey. I'm just curious of what, social media, whether it had any effect on your journey over the years, and what's your opinion of social media. I think I kind of know, because you went on a social media hiatus for a while. So, but
About
what?
a year,
Tell
I think
me
it
what.
was, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what your opinion of that is, and how it affected you.
So I believe that whatever works for you. For me, social media started my journey as I saw DDP on Twitter. That's what gave me that spark to begin with. I used social media a lot more in the early days, kind of sharing my progress. But it wasn't for lots of people have said to me, like, oh, you should have a YouTube channel. But I'm like, what? I'm just not passionate about social media. Like, it works for some people. And so it's not a big part of my life. It's not a big part of my motivation. And I think people need to be careful with it. It's obviously helped you more than you can ever imagine. But I think other people that look at you as like, oh, wow, I can relate to Vance, whether it's being like in a similar kind of weight kind of area when they begin their journey. I think just because you've done social media kind of, I want to say every day for the last X amount of years, don't be afraid to realize, okay, doesn't work for me. You don't have to do the social media. If it works for you, then all the power to you, and I wish you the best of luck. And if that's going to motivate you and help you stay accountable, 100% do it. But at the end of the day, there's never going to be another Vance Hines. No one's going to replicate your journey. No one's going to replicate Arthur's journey. Much like I mentioned previously, you can take things from people. So if someone thinks that using social media is the answer, be prepared that it's not for you. But also be prepared to give it a go as well, because everybody's different. Everybody's motivated in different ways. But for me, I think I like to challenge myself and almost to remind myself every day to do it for myself, not to post something. That kind of keeps me motivated. So in a kind of reverse way, social media still motivates me, but by not using it. I don't need my personality. I don't need to share what I'm doing. That motivates me. Some people, as I mentioned, they need that accountability community, and if that works, do it. So I very rarely use social media. I have social media. People can contact me through it, but it's not a driver for me in my life. But I can't question though the impact it's had on people's lives. I'm sat on your podcast. This has changed your life. Social media's changed your life. You're evolving your way of using your different platforms now. You started the podcast, Vance's Challenge. You've managed to forge your path using the benefits of social media. And, I have nothing but respect for the way you've done it. And I also want to say as well, whatever happens in your personal life, you are on that scale and you're like, hey, not been the best week, but I'm here, I'm not hiding from anybody.
Yeah.
I am accountable for, that pack of cookies I ate or whatever it might be, if it's a bad week. And on the flip side, I've got to tell you, when you lose weight that you're happy with and you smile, believe me, man, the world is smiling with you.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. Hey, now, you got to tell me what's it like to be without social media for a year, and what did you learn over that year?
I learned that we don't need it. And what I mean by that is we don't need to be constantly looking at it. You know, social media, I kept my accounts open because I have some friends on Facebook where we don't have each other's phone numbers, because when you travel to different countries, your number changes a lot, so you lose contact. So Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, I would still use it to communicate with people. I just wasn't using it to look at. I wasn't sitting there scrolling. And you realize you have a lot more time than you ever knew. You know, I mentioned at the very, very beginning about making time, not waiting for time. Even if you're a casual social media user, or you believe you're a casual social media user, I promise you use it more than you think you do. I was using it more than I thought I did. The first week, I would kind of reach for my phone without even thinking about it. You know, it's like a smoker, you know, like they're just thinking about a cigarette. I didn't consider myself like a social media person. Even I was like, you know, where's my phone? You know, like I wanna do this. I wanna do this. And you really learn that, you know, your behaviors are compromised, and your time is not always wisely spent. I think if you're gonna use it at certain times. I think if you're gonna use it, follow a certain type of content. You know, try and avoid all the negative stuff and a lot of the lies and the horrible stuff that they put out there. You know, try and follow people that inspire you. Try and follow people that live a good, honest life. You know, create your own news. You know, like that's when I do use social media now. Like the things I see are Buddhist quotes or, you know, positive things that you're sharing about life. And I don't want to log in and, you know, why follow Donald Trump on Twitter if you don't vote for Donald Trump? You know, people were complaining about him, but they were following him on Twitter. I'm like, well, you know, you're putting your hand into the fire. You know, you're voluntarily.
Yeah.
You know, if that's not your thing, don't read it. You know, and vice versa with the other politicians. I'm not going one of two ways here. You know, like if you're not into the other side, don't read that either. You know, just read what makes you happy. And most importantly, what I learned, most people say to me, like, but don't you need to know what's happening in the world? Well, believe it or not, we knew what was happening in the world before social media. You know, like that's what I learned. The news finds you. If you need to know something, you find out about it. You know, I have not gone on any news website. I want to say since 2019, 2020. I've not searched the news. The news has found me. People have told me what's happening in the world. I've seen what's happening in the world. And that's another important thing, you know, like when you don't use social media so much, you go out more and you see what's really happening. You know, you meet other people, other opportunities present themselves to you because you're more exposed to the world. So social media is great. You know, it has so many benefits. If without social media, we never would have connected. I wouldn't have done the DDP yoga on my porch in Costa Rica during the pandemic without social media. But not everything is so black and white. It doesn't mean it's great, doesn't mean it's bad. Find those gray areas, you know. If you like social media, find the good stuff of it, you know. Use it to communicate with people and help people and seek advice from people. Don't use it to criticize, and don't use it to feed anger you have. If you hate what's happening in politics, don't search it. You know, if you hate what's happening in other areas of, you know, your social circle, just unfollow it for a while. If your friend is only sharing, you know, let's use some like current examples, anti-vaxxer stuff. If you're pro-vaccine and they're an anti-vaxxer and they're bothering you, just unfollow it for a while. If you don't like reading about people that are pro-vaccine, don't call them an arsehole, or just unfollow them for a few weeks, you know, just, you know, we create the world we live in, you know. If you don't want to put, you know, if you don't want to eat a spicy curry, don't put a chili in it. You know, I sometimes think people on social media is like eating one of those, what's it called, the Reaper chili. People log into Twitter and they're like, I'm gonna eat this chili and I'm gonna be surprised that it's hot. You know, like, careful what you put in your brain, the same as careful what you put in your body.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed. Now, if somebody wants to reach out to you for coaching or meditation or a DDP yoga or you know, any of the things, or even explanation with the Wim Hof breathing and cold plunging, you know, whatever, mainly the life coaching. If someone wants to reach out to you and employ you or follow you, you know, what should they do?
Thank you. Yeah. So firstly, there's unionpowercoaching.com, which is the website, and there's a contact section where you can message me directly, and I will respond to you. And it has the information about the services I provide. It has like the kind of rough estimate of the kind of prices too of what I charge. What I will say, you know, I live in a part of the world that is cheaper to live in if you earn in dollars or pounds, you know, euros. I can charge less than maybe what people would pay in other countries due to my personal circumstances. And, you know, I would rather offer someone a more affordable service and help someone than outprice them and they continue to not have those options. So you can find that at unionpowercoaching.com. And on social media, I just have an Instagram account. I'm not publishing much. I will share like positive things in my stories from time to time, but you can find me at Union Power Coaching. I'm happy to offer free advice by message. If you have any questions about anything I've said today, you know, I want to help people. If people want to hire me and they want to coach, they want a DDP yoga instructor, they want to learn more about meditation, please feel free to pay me. I'm happy to do it. But also don't think that if you email me, I won't respond because you're not sending me a PayPal transfer. Like, you know, I've been, as I mentioned several times, I've been at the worst end. And when you reach out to someone and they respond, it means the world. So if you feel like you're in that place and you just want to say, hey, ask a question, please feel free to message me, and I will gladly respond. So yeah, unionpowercoaching.com for information, prices, and contact, at unionpower on Instagram. And you know, don't be afraid to make changes in your life, whether it's through coaching with me or coaching with someone else. You know, like if I don't think I'm the best fit for you, I will recommend somebody else. You know, I'm not here just to make money. You know, I need money. I need to buy my rice and beans, but I want to make sure that I'm giving a service that I'm proud of, and a service you're going to benefit from. So yeah, Union Power Coaching. You heard it here first, possibly.
You know, I want to ask you this just because I read this quote recently, and I want to get your thoughts on it with your background, but that it was attributed to Eckhart Tolle, but I think I saw online that he didn't really say it, but it goes along with his beliefs, and they traced it back to someone else, but that enlightenment is the time between a thought and an action.
Yes, very, very much. Yeah, he maybe used it in his book, but I don't think it's his original thought. My favorite Buddha quote actually is one that says, "I didn't say that." Those memes where it's just Buddha going like, "I didn't say that." So yeah, enlightenment. Yeah, the time between thought and action. Definitely, I think that moment of clarity is enlightenment. When you feel clarity about whatever you're doing. Or maybe it's just clarity in a present moment, you know, going back to the ice bath. When you mentioned about like the feeling you have, a friend of mine tried the ice bath at my apartment in Colombia. she'd never done it before. And she said to me afterwards, she said, I was totally present for 2 minutes. She said, I was not able to think about the problem at work. And it's because she was in that gap in between. She was sat in a bucket of ice, enlightened for 2 minutes, because when you're able to close those doors for a period of time, unfortunately, there's no lock for those doors. They're like French doors. They're going to blow open. But you've got to enjoy those moments when those doors do close. And when you feel that clarity, treasure it, and cherish it. Hold that feeling, because you might not be able to repeat it, but you can remember it, And I will never repeat the feeling of my first ice bath. Someone asked me how it felt to be married, and I said, there is a feeling you have when they tell you that you are now husband and wife, that you feel once in your life. You can't explain it, but you feel it. It's unique. It's that in-between moment where you're not in the past or the future. You are just completely in that present, and you realize, holy shit, someone married me, and it's beautiful. And, those positive feelings are the same feelings that we have that are negative. Why do alcoholics and drug addicts take more alcohol, take more drugs? They're searching that feeling they had once, and they never reach
chasing
it, which
the
is
dragon.
why they often chasing the dragon. You also can't chase the enlightenment that you felt, when you were in your kitchen, preparing a smoothie, and you were completely present, and then you realized, wow, like I was completely in this moment. It's done. That's if you're chasing it, you're not living in the present anymore. You're chasing a moment in the past. So absolutely, that gap we have, and I experience that twice a day when I meditate. I would not experience it for 20 minutes. I wish I did. But I would experience those moments where sometimes I think to myself, oh, this meditation is not very good. Firstly, there's no such thing as a good or a bad meditation. No meditation is bad meditation. But then my timer will tell me 20 minutes is finished, and I think, what? I was there for 20 minutes. So there's that. You can't always experience that feeling. Often you experience it afterwards. So the example of meditation, 1 minute I think this meditation is not, as good as I wish it would be. And then the next second the meditation's finished and I realize, wow, I was, deep in that meditation without realizing, because you won't realize because you're in that gap, and find ways to do it. And there's a great quote. It says, if you don't think you've got time to meditate for 20 minutes, I recommend you meditate for an hour. I like that, meditation makes time. It makes me more productive. So by taking 20 minutes out of my day in the morning and the afternoon, I truly believe that makes me more productive in the rest of the day. I feel like I create more time because I make time for myself. When you make time for yourself, you're telling yourself that you are worth your own time. You are worth self-care. And when you feel better about yourself, you live a happier life and you make better decisions. So whatever it is that you feel is going to make you feel good, make that time and live in that gap between thought and action.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, any closing wisdom you want to part on to make the last and final word? Shit, I've kept you. Hell, 3 hours. Did you think you'd ever be interviewed 3 hours?
I never thought I'd be interviewed. Any closing wisdom? Yeah. So this is something. I just remembered this when you asked. So when I was very unwell with anorexia, I contacted local news media to share about anorexia, because there's a big taboo around anorexia, especially in men, and I wanted that stigma to disappear. And somebody asked me once, they were asking me about my social circle and my support network. And I said to them, what I've learned is from other people's kindness, human kindness is free to give, but when you receive it, it becomes priceless. So give kindness. It is free, and it will be the best gift somebody ever receives. Even if it's smiling at someone in the street, not in a creepy way, just saying good morning to somebody when you walk past them, or, if it's the same cashier you see every day, ask them what their name is, greet them by their name, and they will feel like they exist. So how do you want to be treated? Treat people that way, give kindness, change someone's life, change someone's day, and, peace on earth, etc.
All right, man. Mike, great interview, man. I appreciate you letting me pick your mind. When we hang up, don't close anything down when I stop recording. So just hang on, because I got to tell you what to do. But thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate you letting me take 3 hours of your Saturday afternoon in beautiful Costa Rica. There's a lot more wonderful things you could be doing in Costa Rica than listening to an old bald-headed fat guy. So, but thank you for doing it, man. It's great to see you, and I appreciate you doing this.
No worries, man. And I really appreciate it, and I hope people found it helpful. And thank you for asking me. So, always a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the podcast today. I'm your host, Vance Hines of Transform with Vance, where transformations begin every day. Please take a moment, if you will, if you like the podcast, to subscribe and follow, and you can find us on social media as well, either under Vance Hines or Transform with Vance. Please tune in and subscribe to our feed. You'll be able to hear lots of transformation stories. I'm in search of interviewing as many transformations as I can find. So if you have a transformation that you would like to have someone interview and have and appear on the podcast, just send me the name and number, message me, and I'll reach out to them and try to get them here. But no matter what, a better life begins on the mat. Get on the mat and start your transformation today. Thank you.